You know who lives out in Pottstown. Those people. People from Pottstown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The rurals.
Yeah. The provincials.
Yep.
The pagans even.
I would love to see some Amish people come out and just get plastered.
Dude, I would
I think
I would party with a guy on Rumspringa so hard.
How, dude, it'd be so fun. Is there like a Rumspringa?
I would lie to him so
connection?
much.
You would what?
Lie to him.
About what?
The world.
Like in a way that would make him want to stay or go back home?
Not either one, really. I would just tell him lies.
Yeah. So then
You don't want to meet me on Rumspringa.
I'm amazed you wanted to come on Rumspringa, dude. Didn't they tell you about the sea monsters?
Exactly.
Like all those old maps are real.
I'd be lying to him, telling him Epstein was a good dude. Like, he'd go back to his Amish community. He'd be like, oh, they have told me about a great man. And then it's Epstein.
He's a guy from New York, financier. His name's Jeff.
The New York financier, Jeff Epstein?
I would have heard about it.
I would have heard it. Let me call Ghislaine. Dude, that is one of my favorite bits because Conan just lets it go.
Yeah.
Like, he picks up on it immediately
Yeah.
and just rolls with it.
One of the best things about Conan is he's not only really quick-witted, but he's also really open to just like accepting a bit no matter
Yeah.
who starts it, and he'll just like let it run.
I think that's why he's been on television for 30 years.
Yeah, 100%.
That's probably part of it, you know?
Yeah. Collaborative atmosphere is always helpful.
Yeah. Exactly. That's why this works.
Exactly.
So anyway, I don't know where this is going to have started, or if it's even started yet. This is usually how things go with History Unhinged, too. So check that out if you haven't. Anyway, we've got Ethan sitting third chair here. He doesn't officially work for us yet, but we're working on that.
Yeah, it seems like it's sooner than later.
We like him. And then we'll have the other one back soon, too.
Oh, she's back now.
Oh, she's back.
Yeah.
We got to get her in here.
Her parents did sell her car.
Oh.
So that's a thing. Oh, by the way, do you want to come to our Christmas party later today?
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool.
I got to work at like 8:30, but yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think we're starting at 6, and then it's just going to kind of go until whatever. But
cool.
yeah. Because, Sophie's going to come to that.
I'm sorry. I'm like, I can't imagine coming home from another country and being like, hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. You know, where's my car?
Yeah, no, literally.
Like, how do you have that conversation?
I was watching a movie with Kat the other night, and she because I texted like, "Hey, are you back yet?" And she was like, "Yeah, I just got back yesterday, whatever." And I was like, "Great, like, are you free? Like, whatever." And she was like, "Yeah, I can swing by, but I'll have to have my dad drive me because he sold my car." I was just like, "I'm sorry, what?"
I love the, like, on the one hand, I get it. Like, there might be a reason. There might be a good reason that had to happen. Like, it could be a financial thing. It could be that,
She said it was in the cards for a while, but, like, it was kind of a surprise.
Yeah, it's, like, not saying anything about it.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when I was, 15, my stepdad asked me if I wanted his Jetta. Like, it was a 2003 Volkswagen Jetta.
Interesting.
And it was stick shift, and I didn't know how to drive stick. I wasn't 16 yet. And I was like, yeah, I'd take it, because I was a 15-year-old boy who would have...
You were like, oh, car,
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. Oh, car. And then he ended up giving it away to my cousin Nick, like 6 months later. And I didn't bring it up for a couple of years. Eventually I did, and he was like, no, you said you didn't want it. And I was like, no, I said I would take it. Like, you might have interpreted me saying, yeah, I'll take it as me not really wanting it. But that was more me being like, yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah.
To this day, he still insists this conversation never happened.
Of course he does. Also, by the way, when my truck becomes stick, everyone learns stick.
Okay.
I'm just saying, because like that way you have the skill. Okay. I know Kat's first on the list, just because like
I just feel like there's better cars to learn how to drive stick on than a 1989 F350.
No,
are there though?
No. Well, here's the thing. The reason why I'm doing the truck instead of my car, which is currently stick, is it's going to be way easier to learn stick in the truck. Primarily because first gear in that is what's called a granny gear.
Okay.
Which means you can put it in gear without even touching the throttle, and it will not stall. It will just move slowly. And the idea there being is that for people who are learning, it's a lot easier to be able to slowly learn how to do that and like not worry about stalling out the engine and like, am I going to break it or whatever? Because
break it.
Challenge accepted.
It's okay. They're cheap engines to replace. I know. But
It's not the engine that I'm worried about. It's the transmission. Those things are pricey.
Not really. It's part of the reason I got this truck is because all the things are really cheap.
All right. Woo. Anyway, we had a topic that we were supposed to talk about today, which is Aiden is actually a pagan deity.
My real name is Claus.
Yes.
And everything about so have you seen the movie Klaus?
I love it. Great movie.
So just watched it for the
there was a
first
movie
time
called
too.
Klaus.
Okay, so
Animated Christmas movie on
Learning new
Netflix.
things.
Yeah.
it was a Netflix movie that came out in 2019 about like the origins of Santa Claus.
Oh boy.
And it's like, it's fantasy. It's just like a different take on it.
Yeah.
And they go very much the Nordic route. So the entire story is
Which is an understandable decision.
exactly. And so the whole story is centered around a postman who is the son of like the guy who runs this like regal postal service, and he's extremely pampered. It's actually the classic like hero's journey, but from the postman's story. Yeah. He's like really pampered, he's immature, and he like wants to live in his like silk sheets and all that. And his dad's like,
Yeah, this postman makes a lot of money.
well, that's the thing, is he's just like, nepotism, pure nepotism. And his dad's like, no, you have to like become an adult, and I'm sending you to like the worst possible place, and I'm giving you an impossible task for you to like, mature and become a man. And so he goes, and it's tough or whatever, and this whole like town is just built on a like mutual feud. Like half the town fights the other half of the town. Everybody hates each other. It's horrible.
Sounds like Philadelphia after the Super Bowl.
Pretty much, yeah.
But we're all on the same team.
And the postman's goal is that he has to get this town to send 6,000 letters within a year, or he gets cut off completely from his family. And nobody sends any letters because they all just fight each other all the time. And so he discovers this one kid has like a drawing, and he's like, hey, if you mail this drawing, I can give it back to you. Ends up finally going to this old woodsman's house to, try and get him to mail something. And he still has the drawing, and the drawing ends up coming out of his pocket through kind of like a magic wind or whatever. We find later what that wind is.
The magic of Christmas.
And the old like woodsman is like,
I haven't heard that name in a long
you're
time.
going to give this, like the postman goes into his warehouse, finds out it's full of toys that are just collecting dust. And the kid who had done the drawing, the old woodsman says to the guy, he's like, you're going to deliver this present to the kid. And the postman's like, no. And he's like, you're going to deliver the present to the kid. Because he's like, he looks like a linebacker
Right.
with a white beard or whatever. It's great. And he played...
You have to lock in.
He literally, yeah. And voiced by J.K. Simmons, too.
Oh, my God.
So he's like, that's not my tempo. You're going to deliver you're going to deliver this present. And so they start this...
I need a short film now that is Whiplash, but he's Santa training the new Santa.
Yes.
That's great.
And so they deliver the thing, and then other kids show up with like letters. They're like, give us to Klaus so he can like, give us presents. And then thus begins the journey of him slowly delivering presents to the entire village. And that starts to like heal the village because the kids are now playing instead of fighting. They're playing with opposing clan kids. And so like...
It's kind of like Romeo and Juliet, but without all the weird...
Exactly, yeah.
pedophilia stuff.
It's also like a kid-friendly version of that shitty Postman movie Kevin Costner was in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a combo of that and
Every
Santa
once
Claus
in a
is Coming to
while-
Town, the Rankin Bass.
Yeah.
Now there's this problem where they're both film people. So now I know how
yeah.
he feels during History Unhinged.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I barely knew what J.K. Simmons is. Like, I didn't know who J.K. Simmons was until he said, that's not my tempo. And then I was like,
that
Whiplash, that guy. The bald dude.
The Postman is this dystopian future where Kevin Costner's this like ne'er-do-well road warrior guy or whatever, and then he discovers a like half-buried postal truck, and he's like, what was this? And so he like becomes sets out to deliver all of the letters that were written before the apocalypse, and like there's all these warring tribes or whatever, and he, through the power of the mail, unites them all. And then so that's the premise, is that like the mail unites us all, and then the last...
Is this an 80s movie?
90s, I think.
Okay, I was going to say, this has to be either 80s or like that weird period of the 90s.
Yeah, it was when he was just like cashing the Dances with Wolves check over and over again.
Yeah.
And the end of the movie is them erecting a giant statue of Kevin Costner, so the last shot is just a giant bronze statue of himself.
That's phenomenal.
That's truly incredible.
Right, to
Also,
cap
my
out
favorite,
Klaus.
just really quick, my favorite thing about Kevin Costner is that they hired him to do Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and here's the thing. The story is that his British accent was so bad that they just had him not do it. I struggle to believe that a man cannot do a simple British accent. This seems very hard to understand for me. You can get a passable one very easily without really trying very hard.
Have you listened to Kevin Costner speak?
I have, but you're telling me that for that much money he couldn't do it? No, he didn't want to.
Knowing the relationship that he had with Kevin Reynolds, the director, where they would do a movie because they're buddies, and then they'd have a falling out, not speak to each other for 3 years, and then do another movie, and then not speak to each other for another 3 years. He probably just didn't want to. He's like, no, you can't make me. I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
Especially because Morgan Freeman's in it. He's got to do like a Moorish accent. And he somehow pulls it off.
Yeah, that's rough.
He really went Morgan Freeman, you know?
He did. He really did. Yeah. Anyway, so finishing out Klaus. So thus begins
Wild
the story.
Sort of phrase.
I know. So
Man is jorking Santa.
So they start with they are delivering presents via the postman's wagon with a horse, but
Yep. Is the postman's wagon? He's packing it.
Yeah, he is. They're packing it full. Anyway, so the more presents that become necessary to deliver, the heavier it gets. They have to swap out the horse for 5 reindeer, and then the sleigh ends up the wagon gets up the wagon ends up getting damaged at one point, and the wheels fall off, and it turns into a sleigh based off of the frame. And then at one point, they end up getting chased by like a couple of members of the clans that were like trying to maintain the feud.
I've hoped they being chased.
Exactly, yeah. And
I've hoped they being chased. Whew, I need my coffee to.
I was just gonna let that slide.
Yeah, I wasn't.
So, and at one point, like they get chased down this hill, they end up flying off of this cliff, and they go past one kid's window, and it looks like flying sleigh of reindeer. And the kid is like, literally the next scene is he goes to the postman's office next day to deliver a letter for a present, and he's like, you're never gonna believe what I saw last night. Like to all the other kids. It's so great. But essentially, so the way the film ends is after like 12 years of delivering presents, and eventually they do it just on Christmas because it gets too many, there's too much. I thought it was going to end, spoilers, people, skip the next 2 minutes if you don't want to hear spoilers, but I'm going to spoil it.
I mean, you spoiled the entire movie already.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, no, because here's the thing. So like up until that point, everything generally was just like, oh, so these are all the logical reasons why we think Santa does these things. But throughout the film, we had seen this kind of magical wind that had been demonstrating to Klaus what he should be doing. We find
Klaus
out
is the postman, correct?
No, Klaus is the old woodsman.
Santa.
He's the old woodsman. So we find out like 2/3 of the way through the movie that wind is the spirit of his wife who had died long ago. And she was the one, they had wanted kids but were never able to have them. And he had built all of these toys in hopes and expectations that kids would appear, and then eventually she got sick and died.
That's sad.
It is sad, but after 12 years, the wind kind of comes, and he's like very like old and like kind of really struggling at this point, and he says, "Okay, dear, I'm coming," and then he walks into the woods and disappears. And at that point, I thought they were going to do so the postman and his wife, who was the school teacher, who like eventually they develop a family, he's going to inherit
Santa.
Santa, yeah. What it ends up being is
the U.S. military discovers oil in Santa's workshop.
I wish that were the case, because no, that's how we get Red 1.
Yeah.
No, so what happens is that at the end of the movie, the Jasper, who was the guy, the postman, he's like, I miss him. It was really sad seeing him go, and I don't know how it works, but all I know that ever since he disappeared. Once a year, I get to see my friend. And he sits down in front of the fireplace with cookies and milk on Christmas Eve. And the last thing you see is him settling into the chair, looking at the fireplace, waiting. And then you hear the sleigh bells in the air.
Oh, that's cute.
And so the idea being
that's a happy movie.
Well, that's the thing. Dude, I cried like 4 times. I'm not even kidding.
It's an emotional one.
But like me writing the script the other day.
Yeah, exactly. But the idea that I thought was really cute is like, through essentially the magic of Christmas, all of these logical things that were like reasons why the kids thought he did that, their belief in that, and then through the magic essentially of like his wife and the spirit of Christmas, all of those things that weren't real but the kids believed were real became the truth.
Got it.
Once he ascended through the physical into like this spiritual realm of being like the ethereal magical Santa.
So when I
that
made
he
the
is.
Obi-Wan Kenobi reference earlier, I was correct.
You're kind of on. Yeah.
Nailed it.
Yeah,
Nice.
literally, yeah.
I-
So
And Norm Macdonald's last voice acting.
yes,
role.
yeah. I was so confused for the first 10 minutes. I was like, whose voice is that?
Yeah.
I was like, it's not.
It is kind of a perfect person to voice that kind of movie, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
He's like the comic relief. He like drives the boat and is like, he's the one that like the postman's like having a hard time adjusting to life as an adult. And he's just like, skill issue.
Yeah, literally. Like when he first shows up, he's like, oh, well, you know, if you ring this bell, everybody will greet you with like really happiness or whatever. And it's the bell to like start the war. and so he rings it, and then everyone from the houses come into the square and start beating the hell out of everybody.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah, it's great. It's a very fun movie. You know, it's so funny. This year, I've watched more recent Christmas movies because up until the past like few weeks, I hadn't seen any Christmas movies that had come out in the last like 15 years for the most part, other than like the Christmas
Santa
Chronicles
Claus
and
movies
stuff.
for me. Those were the big ones.
The
Santa
Tim
Claus-
Allen
yeah,
ones?
Tim Allen ones.
Oh yeah,
I love
Right,
those.
yeah, I grew up on those. I love those. Do you know they did a 2 seasons of a series for Disney Plus with that?
I had heard about that. Was it starring the older elf guy with the black
No,
hair?
it was starring Tim Allen as Santa.
really?
Oh yeah.
No
yeah.
way.
Oh, I didn't realize they got him. I thought it was like, I guess I just assumed it was like some sort of weird Lego sequel, like his kids are now.
No,
like,
no.
That's what I figured too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's proper him and the woman who played his wife in the second and third movie.
Okay.
Yeah, they had kids, like other kids other than his kid from the first marriage now, although he does make a cameo. The elf from the first one does make cameos. So the first season's really good. The second season's pretty, like, it's all right.
Yeah.
They went kind of very anti-Trump in the second season, which is interesting.
weird.
You have an
because it's Tim
anti-Trump
Allen.
Santa.
I know, that's the thing. Well, it was all
Tim Allen's
Disney.
conservative.
The
that too, but also how do you have
there
an
is
anti-Trump
a
Santa?
so in they really expand the lore actually.
he told me I was on the naughty list, so I bombed Syria.
No, what they did was there was in the lore now.
invading the North Pole.
In the lore now, they explained it in the second season where Tim Allen is the first human Santa. Up until that point, all of the Santas were essentially like demigods.
Oh.
And all of the different versions throughout history existed. So like there were the Nordic kind of version was one for a period of time. There were like a Viking version for a period of time.
Imagine there's a Viking longship that shows up. You're like, shit,
Yeah,
shit.
literally.
And then they're actually just throwing things at you, and you're like, oh, okay.
This
kinda
is
chill.
like somehow Palpatine Return levels
Yeah.
of bad
Kind of,
writing that you're
Well,
describing
it's
to me
kind of
right
fun.
now.
Well, the reason I really
J.J.
liked
Abrams
it.
wrote this series.
The reason I really liked it is because they have the one called Santa 17, who is like showing him all of this stuff, who is the Santa that fell off of his roof
Yeah.
in the beginning of the first one.
Did they retcon Santa dying?
Yeah. Well,
Oh.
also keep in mind when he fell off the roof, he just waved and then disappeared out of the clothes.
Like
Oh,
Obi-Wan
right.
Kenobi to bring it back.
Yeah, with Obi-Wan Kenobi. So like the idea.
Everything is Star Wars.
Yeah, literally, yeah. So the idea being is that this Santa 17 was walking Tim Allen through essentially the Hall of Santas and explaining, he was like, yeah, you're the first time. We were getting to the point where the world was changing so fast that we didn't know how to keep up. So we figured maybe it's time to have a human be Santa that comes from that time that understands
The
what's
first
happening.
movie is like centrally planned.
Basically, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
There's no way.
That's dumb.
But wait, but what I do love is that the guy who
retcon that.
the guy who plays Santa 17 is the guy from Parks and Rec. I can't remember his name, but he's the
Offerman?
no, the other guy, the large, like really guy.
Oh, with the huge schlong?
Yes, yeah,
That guy.
He is so perfect as Santa. It's not even
I mean,
funny.
that doesn't surprise me.
He
at all.
literally looks exactly like. Do you remember the Rankin Bass version from Santa Claus is Coming to Town?
Yeah.
He looks like a human version of that.
Really?
Like it is like rosy cheeks, perfect like beard, and I was like, I need a series about Santa 17. Like I want to see. He looks like he came from every ad from the 1930s. I was like, that is the perfect rendition of Santa, and he was only like a minor character. I got to pull him up real quick.
Which
so I can
also,
show you guys.
wild thing is that like our modern conception of what Santa looks like is only about 120 years old.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like that's it wasn't like there's the common misconception that Coca-Cola invented that Santa. They didn't. Pepsi also had a Santa. Another company that did soda that started with a W that I can't.
This is
remember
what he
it's
looks
called.
like.
Oh, that's perfect.
Holy shit.
right.
That's fucking Santa.
Like that is the Santa.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's ideal.
Yeah.
That is peak Santa performance.
Yeah. And just like even just the like his face, just
Yeah.
like the roundness and the
He really does look like
happiness.
the Coca-Cola Santa, like like the exact facial expression, or the classic cover art for "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," like
Yeah.
the classic, like the original image that was printed
Yeah.
with the poem.
Now, granted, keep in mind,
Which
up
is
until
still
that
anonymous.
point,
Yeah,
Like, there's been multiple people who claim to have written it. I am of the belief that poem manifested itself and nobody actually wrote it. I think
it's one of those things I don't really want to know. I don't need
I
to,
think
you know.
that newspaper received that poem from some ethereal source and was just like, the night before Christmas.
Yeah.
But I also found out that the gift giving stuff used to be on St. Nicholas's Day,
That would make sense. Yeah,
what day
because
is St. Nicholas's Day?
December 6th.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
and in Europe they still have a lot of these traditions around this, where on the night of, I guess it would be the night of the 5th, whatever their like sort of ethnic version of Santa is, Sinterklaas, Semi-Klaus, whatever, will come on that day with rather than in America, Santa gives you coal if you're naughty. In those countries on that night, it's some other entity like Krampus, Zwart Piet,
Yeah.
or Belschnickel, who I found out recently is not an invention of Dwight Schrute.
It is not. That is a
Really?
real,
That is a real
German thing.
exactly.
Oh my god! Wait, so this is gonna get us
I feel like it was
directly.
Southern German, like Bavaria or something.
Yeah, Bavaria, I believe. Yeah.
This is gonna get us directly into the topic of what we were intending to speak about.
No, I'm glad that we started off with some fun Santa movie
yeah.
lore because
So-
that's good stuff.
What is, because I know Christmas is more Christian than people give it credit for, but
It's entirely Christian.
before we get into what elements are Christian,
this Christian before, maybe ever.
what are some elements? What are some of the elements that are not Christian?
Kissing under the mistletoe. That seems to have just been based off of a folk tradition of mistletoe being a romantic or cleansing, kind of like sacred item, an herb. So kissing under the mistletoe, that seems to come from, not the specific kissing under it part, but the use of mistletoe seems to have developed out of Celtic tradition. I think the Yule log, like keeping a large log burning throughout the season,
That makes sense.
is also one of them.
So what about like Santa himself as not Saint Nicholas, but as like a present deliverer?
So that was the most interesting part. I was having the most trouble tracking down when the presents started. Like all the Christmas stuff, it's actually very straightforward when you look at the origin of most of the Christmas traditions.
Yeah, so where does it
here's the thing,
start?
We're talking about the core ones.
Yeah.
Like kissing under the mistletoe, the Yule goat, like things like that are only really a thing in a few specific places. Yeah, those generally tend to come from folk customs.
Yeah.
It might be a stretch to call them part of any pagan rite or ritual, but they do come from outside of the Christian religion.
Well, I feel like every culture just tacks on their own thing. Like Britain, they do the oranges thing or whatever. Like that's not a thing that comes from religious.
Also,
tradition
Santa
at all.
Claus is like American.
yeah.
That was the part that caught, like, you think of it as like, oh, well, the Dutch have Sinterklaas and the Germans have something slightly more German than Sinterklaas. The Brits now have Santa, but what I found out is that it was kind of a mixture of the British tradition of Father Christmas, which developed during the Puritan era, because the Puritans literally outlawed Christmas.
And what like time frame was that?
This is like the 1650s.
Okay.
So during the 1650s, the Puritans take control of England. They outlaw celebration of Christmas because celebration is bad. No dancing. It's literally footloose if you made a religion out of it.
Yeah.
Make religion out of this.
Yeah, exactly. So they ban Christmas. They ban all of the traditional Catholic celebrations of it because the English Reformation is weird and it's not Lutheranism. It's not Calvinism.
Yep.
Now, Lutherans and Anglicans typically were still chill with a lot of the old celebrations, the festivities, the feast days, the fasting. The Calvinists, though, and the Puritans, those were the hyper-reformist groups. They banned all that. So the Dutch banned it too, because that's where Calvinism started. That's John Calvin. And then under Cromwell, they banned Christmas in England in terms of the traditional celebration. Like, you're still allowed to be like, yes, Jesus was born on the 25th. That's it.
Wow.
So in a weird way, in a very stereotypically British way, the Brits come up with Father Christmas, and he is a cartoon character, essentially, who it's a rebellious sort of little thing where this is them it's civil disobedience. They're like, well, if we're not allowed to celebrate Christmas with our wassailing, caroling, and our other wassailing, drinking at the tavern, and potentially by that point giving gifts. We're still not entirely sure when the gift-giving tradition started. because it does not go back to Saturnalia. There is a period where Christianity straight up outlaws like Saturnalia.
Well, what was the tradition? I believe it was in either the Fertile Crescent or in that just Asia Minor area, where the kids would leave something outside at night on a given, like, or in the winter season, I believe, and then it would have some form of gift or something in it. I can't remember what it is.
That might be related to St. Nicholas and his saint.
Are you talking about the thing with the shoes?
Yes.
That's a thing on December, then again, the night of December 5th.
Yeah.
You would put your empty shoes out, either on like the front stoop or wherever.
Yeah.
And then they'd be filled with candy or whatever crap.
Yes.
You know, you
yeah.
put,
So
you put
who
in
was
there,
that with? Like what culture?
Like what part of the world? Europe
sounds
somewhere.
familiar,
I
but I
don't
can't
know.
remember exactly
Yeah.
what it is.
I feel like that was something. I don't want to say like Jordan just because it's the first thing in mind. But yeah.
Okay, pull that shit
Jimmy
up.
pulled that up.
But yeah, so to cut a long story short here, the English come up with this character of Father Christmas, and he's their way of rebelling. And there's all these cartoons of Father Christmas, just talking smack to Puritans and like, you can't ban Christmas. And he's an old man. He's elderly. He's got his robes. And the idea is that he's sort of the spirit of Christmas, even though Christmas has been outlawed. Then in the Netherlands, they developed this tradition of Sinterklaas, and this is St. Nicholas. And St. Nicholas is St. Nicholas. Now he does it. I can't tell if he gave gifts in the Dutch tradition. He was still like, they would have a parade. There would be a guy dressed up with the bishop's regalia, so the big bishop's hat and the robes, and they'd be red. And so as the New World begins to develop, as you have a lot of Dutch and English colonists coming to North America, and then the Germans as well, those traditions start to mix. And Father Christmas and Sinterklaas sort of meld into one figure here in America in the late 17 and early 1800s. I think Washington Irving is credited with one of the first Santa Claus stories. And that's where you start to get the idea of this character riding around on a horse and delivering presents. And then if you go back, you see that there's some, at the time, like historical sources that are talking about them. And they're like, yeah, in New York, this character is called Santa Claus, but in Pennsylvania, because New York is Dutch and Dutch and English, primarily English, he's called Santa Claus. In Pennsylvania, he's called Kris Kringle. Yes, and he's called Kris Kringle because it was Christ Kindle, Christ's children. So
That's where that comes from.
Yeah, so Kris Kringle is from Christ Kindle. It's actually not like a name for the character. It's more of a name for like what he does.
Yeah. And like who he is giving presents to, essentially.
So real quick on the shoes, it sounds like it's like all over continental Europe because it's kind of a refraction of what in America they do with the stockings.
Yes.
It's that similar concept of, so in specifically the outside on the front porch as opposed to by the fire is like northern Germany.
Yeah.
And there's another one in like the Belgium, Netherlands area where you put out the shoes, but then you leave inside them like hay and carrots for the reindeer or the horses or whatever, and then after they eat, then is filled up with. But I think northern Germany is what we were specifically talking about.
Yeah, and I will say gift giving is one of the aspects that it's kind of hard to pin down where it starts, because on the one hand, you do have these old legends about St. Nicholas going back to the 9th century, where he's giving gifts in some form or another. Also, St. Nicholas as a figure is hard to pin down too, because there's no contemporary writing about him, but within 100 years everybody's like, yes, there's this guy.
So I was about to ask about that, like how much of him, because the story that I always was told was there's this family with these 3 daughters that aren't married, they're in trouble,
the father can't pay the dowries.
Saint Nicholas throws money in through the chimney. How much of that is something that like could have he actually did, or is it like a retroactive story because he had already developed the tradition of gift giving that then was a sort of fictional origin for that tradition?
So that story as being attributed to Santa Claus seems to originate in the 9th century. That's the farthest back we can trace it.
Okay.
Now, it might go back further than that, but the earliest we can trace it is the 9th century, the early 9th century, so like 814 to 820, that kind of time period. The problem is that a very similar story is recorded several centuries earlier about a guy named Apollonius of Tyana, who was I believe, sophist philosopher. might have been Neoplatonist, sophist, Neoplatonist, somewhere in there, who was a traveling man who worked miracles. And I think I mentioned this while we were shooting the video the other day when I was taking one of my New Testament studies courses in college. Because yes, guys, I did go to school for this. Our professor, Mike Legaspi, great guy. Really, I loved him. I took like 5 classes with him. This is something I did a lot. If I liked a professor, I took a lot of classes with him. He, starting off the course, it was basically about the first century AD and the New Testament, gave us a bunch of quotes. And they were, not even quotes necessarily, stories about figures, and some quotes. And he was like, all right, is this about Jesus or is this about Apollonius of Tyana? And we all got half of them wrong. Like the really obvious ones, like the Beatitudes, the Sermon on the Mount, some of the parables, things like that. Those were people got immediately because, you grew up with those. Some of the more obscure stuff, there would be stuff that you're like, I didn't remember that about Jesus. And then you'd be like, wait, I don't remember that about Jesus. And that's Apollonius of Tyana. One of those stories is the story of him going to this house and putting money on the windowsill. And in this case, there's no, it's because the family's poor. It's not the extent of like the daughter's going to have to go into prostitution if they don't pay a dowry. Like the St. Nicholas version adds a lot of stakes. The Apollonius of Tyana one is more like just him doing it because it's a good deed. There's no stakes involved, which would suggest that it's not pagan. That's philosophy. That's a different kind of miracle worker. This wasn't a character who was, hyper subservient to the Roman pantheon. This is more of a like Greek kind of figure because it's in the Greek.
One of those
side of
like folk things, like Johnny Appleseed.
Now Apollonius of Tyana is believed to have existed as a figure. It's kind of like Jesus, where it's like, at the very least, scholars agree this person was probably real. They probably did preach something and move about Asia Minor, working their miracles, whatever you want to call them. And that was recorded. The question is, was Apollonius of Tyana an independent tradition, or were these stories of him working miracles and doing these things attributed to him as a response to the growth of Christianity? Because the earliest stories about Apollonius of Tyana come out in the 3rd century, and while the authorship is debated of the New Testament and everything, one thing that is agreed upon by scholars is that the entire New Testament has been written by 95 AD. Those stories are circulating by the beginning of the 2nd century. So even though some of the earliest manuscripts we have come from the 2nd century, we also have the church fathers. We can look at their writing. We can look at what they referenced. They were referencing basically every single book of the New Testament by the end of the 1st century. Clement, I think, refers to John in like 96 AD. So those books were there. They had been written. We just don't have copies from that time. The earliest manuscript fragments we have are, I think, from 125 AD, around there. But so that tells us that the stories about Jesus of Nazareth are circulating a century before the stories about Apollonius of Tyana. Is that a response to Jesus, or is this an independent tradition that just happened to look a lot like Jesus? Because, neither Jesus nor Apollonius of Tyana are the first stories about wandering miracle workers. Yeah. It's just about, the exact miracles being performed.
It's just one of those interesting, like, archetypal things that people can sometimes come up with independently, like the idea of the Son of God being resurrected is something that Horus or happened all over the world. Like, there's a little
iffy bit on that, but
but like there is just example of like the flood, right? Like that's something that like
everybody's got a flood.
Everybody's got a flood. Maybe it's just because it happened, but it also could just be that there's some sort of, it's in Jung and all that, of just we all have these like thing inside us that helps us come up with these common notions.
Were there any other documented or notable instances in the like early historic world of somebody claiming to be, or somebody being accused of being the, I don't want to necessarily say Son of God, but similar to that of which like the Christ was considered to be, which is the not the prophet, the one
Messiah.
The Messiah. Yeah. Was anybody else considered to be the Messiah before or after he?
I'm pretty sure there were a couple of Jewish figures who claimed to be the Messiah, and it didn't end well for them.
Doesn't seem to have ended well for anyone.
Yeah, no, it really doesn't. There's a couple of Jewish figures in there. You do get some analogs in both the BC and AD period of people being like, I am the son of Jupiter. It's a little bit different. The messianic story that we have with Jesus is extremely specific. There are, I think, like 600 prophecies about him in the Old Testament that, Jews will argue that he didn't fulfill them. Christians will argue that he did. That's the main divide between Christians and Jews is, was Jesus the Messiah or not? At the end of the day, that is the big, that's the inflection point where we split. Because at the time, Christians were considered to be an apocalyptic sect of Judaism who believed the end had come. Yeah. That was the way they were perceived. Obviously, that is not quite what it was, but they also thought we were cannibals. Because the whole, we eat the flesh and drink the blood of our Lord. The Romans did not get how metal that really is. But, it is what it is. They didn't get it. You might not get this, but your kids are going to love it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But yeah, there are some traditions that have certain aspects, but I think people have a tendency to ascribe connections to things that aren't necessarily connected just because they are similar.
What's a good example?
Let's see. I'm trying to think of a good one here.
Go with the Christmas connection. Are there connections that people make that aren't necessarily
I think
relevant?
decorating the tree, for example. We do have accounts from the 2nd and 3rd century of people decorating trees or decorating their homes more so, outdoor trees too, but like decorating around the Christmas season during Saturnalia, and they were decorating with flowers and fruits and things like that. And that kind of, people look at that and they go, oh, well, that's the origin of Christmas trees. No. The origin of Christmas trees is in the 16th century. It is more than 1,000 years removed. We don't see Christmas trees until the Lutherans. Martin Luther is traditionally credited with inventing the Christmas tree.
Okay.
Now, there are paradise plays that have to do with Adam and Eve that did sometimes have trees that were decorated. That actually might have a connection to Saturnalia. Or it could just be it was totally independent, because at the end of the day, decorating things is something people do. Birds decorate things.
Yeah. So what was the origin from Luther of the Christmas tree?
I think it had, if I remember correctly, it had something to do with the fact that they were evergreens. So they were green all year round. It was the enduring life that even as the rest of the world fades away, the greenery remains. It was also the most common tree there. But the big thing that was particular to the Christmas tree was that it was cut down and brought inside the home.
Yeah.
That was what was particular to the Christmas tree. You do have, instances of like people decorating with greenery because people decorate with whatever is available to them. That's just what we do. It's not any part of any single pagan tradition, any single folk tradition. Go anywhere in the world, people are decorating their homes, and people are going to decorate their homes around festive seasons. And the big problem with it all is not necessarily to say that there weren't pagan groups doing any of these things. It's to ascribe a direct connection between the two, especially when people tend to overinflate exactly how much we actually know about Yule. We don't know anything about Yule. The closest source we have to it is Bede, writing in the 8th century. And Bede literally goes, so they call the months we refer to as December and January Yule. And around the solstice, or at the 8th calends of the calends of January, the 25th. It's 8 days before January, the January 1st. On the calends of January, that was the solstice at the time because the calendar hadn't switched over yet. It had switched over to the Julian calendar from the other one.
Gregorian? No, we are Gregorian now.
We're on the Gregorian. That was the 8th century, I want to say. I think Pope Gregory was in the 700s.
Was that long ago? Jesus.
That sounds kind of right.
I think
or
there
a little
was
early, maybe, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that there was a switch and then a correction even later. I think that there was the Gregorian. Sorry, 17th century. The 18th century is the Gregorian. I think 8th century. I'm mixing things up here. Point is,
was there an August?
We were on the Julian.
Yeah.
The Julian gets augmented to include August.
Yeah.
So July and August are late additions to the calendar. January is also a late addition to the calendar. That's not as late, but it's not original to the Julian calendar. Julius Caesar added, it gets added somewhere in the 300s BC, I want to say. And then Julius Caesar adds July, Augustus adds August. That's why September, October, November, December are
7, 8,
9, and 10,
yeah.
Even though they're actually not. They're 9, 10, 11, and 12, because there wasn't a 7 and 8.
Oh, right. Yeah,
July
yeah,
and
yeah,
August
yeah.
weren't there. So they were the 9th, 10th, and 11th.
Yeah.
7th, 8th, 9th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. Yeah.
Yep.
Whew.
So there were only 10,
There were only 10 months in the 1st century AD.
and then Julius and Augustus.
No, there were so there were 10 in the 1st century BC, and then by the 1st century AD there's 12.
Yeah.
So but because of how the calendars worked, the 25th was the solstice. Now it's the 21st. There was something that Bede referred to as them calling Modranit, which was Mother's Night, and he goes, and we don't know why it's called that, but we assume it has something to do with the activities performed that night.
So this is Aostra all over again.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's from the same document. They're both from the Reckoning of Time.
That's great.
Oh, and keep in mind, because people I think have a tendency to not understand how close this source is. Bede is writing in the 8th century. It's the 700s AD. The Saxons invaded in the 600s. They were pagan when Augustine got there in 600 AD. Like, these are traditions that are only a few generations back for Bede.
Yep.
Yeah.
We have people converting in like the entire kingdoms that don't convert until the later 600s. So Bede is maybe 100 years off from when these traditions died out. He has no idea what they were. All he knows is also Yule was not the name of the holiday. Yule was the name of 2 months that they squished together and called Yule.
Interesting.
It was like how Easter they called Eostra or Ostara because he thought it had to do with a god or a goddess. It might have just been because that was the term for east. And they saw that as the season of renewal and the sun rises in the east and, all that kind of stuff. So Yule, the term, doesn't actually seem to get applied to Modranit until Snorri Sturluson is writing in the 13th century.
Good old Snorri.
Oh, yeah. He's the guy who tells us about the Yule lads. But he's writing about it in the 13th century, and he's giving us a little bit more detail, which, hard to say. He's actually further removed from when Iceland converted, because they converted around the early 11th century. Leif Erikson is traditionally the one who brought Christianity to Iceland. It was probably a bishop that he brought with him on his boat, but it's Leif Erikson, because they got to do the whole thing where they have a heroic figure.
Yep.
So they bring it to Iceland. The difference with Iceland is that they had a lot more writing. The Norse were particularly literate of all the European peoples. More literate than the Greeks and the Romans on average, more literate than the English, the Franks.
More literate than the Greeks?
At the time, yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, too, is like when you think back to ancient Greece and you're like, the agora.
Right,
the
like
academies.
classical Greece.
But still, that was like a tiny, tiny proportion of the population that knew how to actually read and write anything more than, 20 planks of wood for 20 dinars,
Well, and it wasn't necessarily that long comparatively of a period, right? Like, there was plenty of other, like, the majority of ancient Greek history was not the classical Greek period that we think with Aristotle and Plato and all that other
Yeah, that's like 150 years.
Yeah.
I mean, classical Greece is basically the end of the beginning of it's kind of like the Persian invasion of Greece up to the Roman conquest of Greece, which is in the 200s. So it's not a long period of time. So the Icelanders are particularly literate. That's why we have the Greenland Saga, the Orkney Saga, the Vikings were a literate people, which is surprising when you think about them, but they were also very hygienic. These were some of the cleanest, most literate, more sophisticated people in Europe. And Snorri tells us that they would go to they'd go to a special place. I think it was Uppsala, and they would perform sacrifices, and you would whisper something to a boar, and then you'd sacrifice the boar, and they'd drink and they'd eat, and it was all the men. It's unclear if there were any women present, but it was this big festival around that same time. Then we learned that King Håkon ended up moving Yule to coincide with Christmas. It's unclear if that's actually true because Bede's writing earlier than that about it being on Christmas. Fact of the matter is, if you look at the celebration that Snorri describes, which is, again, the only account we have of what happened at Yule, it's not Christmas. And sure, the date lines up. It's the solstice. Thing is, when you go back and you look at how Christmas was actually dated, there's a few theories on this. I don't know why Wikipedia insists that the borrowing it from another religion theory is the one with the most merit. It's not, because it relies on concluding that the date was chosen because of Sol Invictus and Dia Natalis Sol Invicti, which was on the 25th. We first have that dated to the 25th in 354 AD in reference to 336 AD. So a document from 354, the chronograph of 354, says that records both Christmas and Dia Natalis being on the 25th of December. For the first time in 336 AD, but it's written in 354.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Now, the part that people didn't really know up until recently, because we keep finding things, is that Dia Natalis, we did know that was instituted in 274 AD by Emperor Aurelian, I think. That's Sol Invictus being part of the Roman pantheon for the first time. That is the first time he is officially a Roman god. Mm-hmm. You go back a little bit to 235 AD, and keep in mind, we don't have any record of Dia Natalis being celebrated on the 25th until 354. You go back to 235, and Hippolytus of Rome, who is an early church father, he is writing his Chronicon and his canon, and he records that Jesus was born, or Jesus was conceived on the day the world was made. And we have Julianus Africanus, about 15 years earlier, writing that Passover that year, which is what they believed was the day that they had this tradition that Passover was the same day as the day the world was made. There's a whole bunch of different things that go into this, but the fact of the matter is you have a very, very early Christian tradition.
Yep.
That Jesus was conceived on March 25th, or that Jesus was conceived at Passover in the year of his birth, which is how you get some people dating it to early January, because some people believe that some doing the calculation back thought that year, because they couldn't figure out what year it was exactly, I think it would have been April 2nd was the one theory, and that puts it in January. The other theory is March 25th, and that puts his birth in December, and they say it's exactly 9 months. There's also an early tradition of the idea that holy people, like prophets and things, died on the day that they were conceived.
Interesting.
The date that they were conceived. Mm-hmm. So if Jesus died on Passover in the year 33 AD, which it probably wasn't, it's hard to actually date Jesus' birth because there's some confusion about what census Luke is referring to. Because he says it's Quirinius, but the census that Quirinius was governor of Rome for was in, I think, 6 AD. But he was also the other role that governed that area. I can't remember exactly what it was. It might have been prefect. But he wasn't governor. He had a different title. And it was the kind of thing that you could mix up if you're Luke writing in the first century.
Because I know there's that idea that Jesus may have been born actually in the summer. I know that's proliferated a lot.
I'll get to there in a second. Luke is writing in the mid first century AD. Nobody's totally sure exactly when these are authored. The early dates put it in the 50s or 60s. The late dates put it in the 80s and 90s. Either way, it's within a century.
Yep.
It's kind of silly when people say that these are written long after Jesus' death. It's, we don't have Gallic Wars being attributed to Caesar for several decades. Nobody argues with it. Nobody argues that Caesar didn't write it. I think it's a little silly. Most of it's funny, the actual criticism of the authorship of the Gospels doesn't come from the late dating like a lot of people think it does. It's from textual analysis, where people say, all right, well, this seems to rely on this, and this seems to rely on this, and these two things mention something that might come from an earlier source. So, which again is kind of like, the question is, did these people actually write these? Did they write them and then they were later kind of like edited a little bit for clarity? What's the exact tradition here? If you look at the traditional authorship, all of the church fathers unanimously agree on who wrote what. There's not a single instance of Mark being attributed to John, that kind of thing. Yeah. Scholars tend to lean towards that they were attributed to the authors later. I prefer the traditional authorship. I think it makes more sense. I think that it's not worth getting into. It's not the subject that we're talking about.
I have a question. One thing I've wondered with the dating is, because there are so many examples of just like these weird coincidences of like, this date of this other feast and this date of a religious thing line up. Are there any like counter examples of like one where there was like, because the story I was always told, even growing up Catholic, was like, oh well, as an evangelistic process,
Also,
preachers would be like, so
All Saints
yeah,
Day,
yeah,
Halloween.
yeah.
We've done a video on this before. Like, yes, All Saints Day was chosen to overlap with Samhain. That was a deliberate choice by Alwyn, I think. That sounds right. In like the 8th century, I think. Yeah. So that was a deliberate decision to overlap these two holidays, because you had the idea of the veil between our world and the spirit world being at its thinnest. So they went, and now keep in mind, All Saints Day existed. It was just on different days.
And just moved.
Some people celebrated it in May, some were in August, some were in December. And so Alwyn went to the church and said, hey, can we put this on November 1st? Because it doesn't have to do with when somebody died or when somebody was born. It can go wherever. And he said, can we put it on November 1st so that we can make it a little bit easier for the Celts, who have been Christian for longer than most people in a lot of ways. Christianity reaches the British Isles in the 1st century AD traditionally, and we know it was there in the 2nd century AD. We have the examples, and we keep finding earlier and earlier and earlier. Patrick goes over to Ireland in, I think, the 5th century, and Patrick is not an Irish saint; he's a Welsh saint. But just saying.
Is the other one is like St. Bridget's Day is also like Imbolc or whatever. Yeah.
Yes, I believe that one. And also St. Bridget in the Celtic form, like that version of the saint from the British Isles, might actually be a syncretization between another St. Bridget, like a real Christian saint, and the Celtic goddess Bridget. Yeah. Who was the goddess she was a goddess of fire and a patron goddess of women. Yeah. And St. Bridget has similar attributes, so it seemed possible that the church went, okay, so we can have them continue to venerate Bridget, but also have them be Christian by merging these two figures into one. That does happen. No historian, even Christian historians, aren't going to argue with you that there were instances of this.
Yeah, I feel like there are other examples too in other parts of the world where they're like, oh, you worship this guy? Yeah, he can be a real guy. Our guy is just bigger and better. Yeah. Like, that's cool. You can keep believing in whoever this guy is. He's just inferior to the real God, the main God,
And that was how a lot of things worked, like with the Vikings to a large extent, the Norse, the early relationship. Wasn't that they had to stop believing their gods were real necessarily. They just had to stop worshiping them and venerate the Christian God instead. You had varying degrees of acceptance of this. Some people went all in. Some people were like, yeah, I'll wear the cross and I'll go to church on Easter, but I'm going to have a shrine to Odin in my home. And that kind of goes back to the question you were asking about people claiming to be the son of God. That's extremely prolific throughout basically every culture. It varies. You have Pharaoh is, I think, Ra's representative on Earth. He is semi-divine, and when he dies, he becomes a god. The same thing gets involved in the Romans, the Roman pantheon later, where the emperor is deified, and it's believed that he is not just divinely ordained, but he is divine. And part of the reason that Christians were persecuted and Jews weren't is because the Jews they would say, yeah, well, we'll sacrifice. We can't sacrifice to your God or to your emperor, but we'll sacrifice to our God on behalf of your emperor. And the Romans went, good enough.
Yeah.
And then they were like, all right, Christians, what about you guys? You're Jewish, right? And the Christians went, we don't do sacrifices because we already did the big one. Like, God sacrificed himself. And the Romans were like, that's not how it works. And the Christians went, I can pray for you. I mean, yeah, that's about all I can do. And the Romans were like, no sacrifice, no rights. Yeah. And again, the degree of persecution of Christians varied throughout the Roman Empire. It was only in one period was it an imperial directive.
Were sacrifices different than taxes?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So taxes everybody paid taxes. Christians paid taxes. Jesus told Christians to pay taxes.
So what was the point of the was it just essentially subserviency?
Yes.
Okay.
It was submission.
Got it.
That is purely what it was. But Jesus says, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. That is Jesus explicitly saying, pay your taxes.
Yeah.
Like, because again, one thing that people mix up too is, Jesus didn't come to be a king on earth. Yeah. And he says that directly to Pontius Pilate. We do now know that Pontius Pilate was a real figure who was the prefect of Rome during Jesus' lifetime and at the attributed time of his death.
Yeah.
So
that was the kind of crazy thing about Jesus as a figure was that, you had all these people claiming to be the Son of God and having this type of role. You never had them claiming to also like being okay with being a commoner. You never had God, like the Son of God, being like, yeah, I'm a carpenter and I walk around and
especially when everybody around them is like, you are amazing, you should be like lifted up above, and they're like, and he's just like, that's not the point.
Also, I know this is not directly the topic of what we're talking about, but before anybody comments and says that Jesus never claimed to be the Son of God, he does it at least 5 times in the book of John alone.
Yeah,
the Gospel of John alone, he claims to be God 5 times. There's a point, I forget exactly which gospel it's in, but Thomas refers to him as my Lord and my God, and he doesn't correct Thomas.
Also, granted, I literally just started rereading. I can't remember the last time.
Christian lore goes hard, dude. Even if you're not interested, read it in the same way you'd read Norse paganism, Greek paganism.
I'm fairly certain either right before or within the Sermon on the Mount, at least in Matthew, he does say it.
Yeah, I think it might be John, but
I just read Matthew, and I feel like I remember being surprised. It was like, oh, he just outright said it.
All right, I'm going to have to go back and read it.
Sermon on the Mount is Matthew. I think it's like Matthew 6 or something, right?
It's Matthew like 4 through 6.
Yeah. So
it's been a while since I read Matthew specifically. I'm working my way back through, but I've been paying the most attention to John because I'm trying to grasp Revelation. It's so complicated.
The Revelation Lore Lodge video is going to be it's going to go hard.
We should do a video on Revelation.
No.
From like a theological standpoint, not like
I'll do a video on Revelation that's like all the times people misinterpreted the book of Revelation.
Yes.
But the one thing that
I want the Aiden Mattis take on Revelation.
That was one thing that I took an entire semester long course on the book of Revelation. It was a 400 level class. There were 15 of us. This is like a senior honors level seminar.
Yeah.
None of us knew what the hell was going on in that book. The professor was like, don't try to interpret it. You'll literally go insane. It's happened to people. They try and interpret Revelation and they go crazy.
Yeah.
Which on the one hand, maybe that's a divine thing. On the other hand, it's just a really complicated book.
Like an info hazard.
Every single thing has 6 meanings.
Well, that's the thing is I feel like because like having at the very least like
you guys are getting a weird Bible episode for Christmas. Yeah. Surprise.
I read Revelation within the last year. Mm-hmm. And I remember looking at it and I was like,
what?
No, it was less that. It was more like it is so clear that the intentionality behind this is metaphor, and the metaphor is so easily applied to anything at any given time that it is meant in a scenario in which the interpretations are capable of being. You can interpret anything that's happening there to anything that's going on.
Everything's
at the
a
current
quadruple
time.
entendre.
Exactly, but the problem is, and the thing that I realized was like, it's not the correlations that exist to the modern world or to the world that's happening as it is. It's how many of them are actually happening at a given time and in coexistence with each other chronologically.
Yeah.
Like if you can see like, oh yeah, like I can see this is happening right now with this person, it's like, okay, how many times has that happened in history before?
They thought that Attila the Hun was the Antichrist. They thought that Genghis Khan was the Antichrist. Basically, anytime some guy rides a horse out of the steppe, they decide he's the Antichrist.
Yes.
We're due for that, as I've been saying.
Yes, it's every 800 years.
It's time for a steppe nomad invasion.
That's the thing is like, okay, so that may be happening. How many of the things that happened before that happened? How many of the things that happened after that have happened? Let's calm down.
There's also like 6 different ways of looking at the chronology of the book of Revelation. You've got pre-trib, you've got post-trib, you've got we're in the tribulation right now. Some people believe in the rapture, even though that's not in the Bible. I mean,
what? The verse about the guy in the farm getting taken away isn't literally about the end times?
Father Ben even mentioned that. He was like, some of our misguided brothers believe in the rapture. But here's the thing is like, trying to interpret the book of Revelation is how we got the nation state of Israel.
Yeah.
Like,
and specifically American, like, excessive funding of Israel because all of our, like, legislators and presidents for a long period of time were, like, rapture.
Looking at you, Ted Cruz.
That's the thing is, I mean, modern Zionism is founded upon Christian dispensationalism.
Yeah.
Which is the belief that there are these dispensations, these periods. I think there's 6 of them. It's to mirror the 6 days of creation.
Yeah.
And that, once Israel returns and the temple is rebuilt, then we'll be able to get to the end times. Then the rapture happens, and all the believers get assumed up into heaven in their bodily form, and everybody else goes through the tribulation.
Yeah,
everybody else has a bad time.
Which is just 7 years of just abject suckage for everyone who did not get raptured.
And it's like, that's not in there. That's not there. Personally, I believe in the viewpoint that we are going through it. Like we are currently.
We do be going through it.
We be going through it right now. I don't think I think that you look at like where the millennial reign of Christ comes in is kind of like confusing as well. Is that pre-trib? Is that post-trib? Is that in the middle of it?
Are you saying in terms of the tribulation? Like,
yes.
Okay, and because that's the other thing is like even when it comes down to the years aren't necessarily literal. It could be 7 ages of tribulation.
Yeah, the Bible does that a lot, by the way. Like 6 days of creation.
Could be 6 billion years.
Especially when it
doesn't. It's very clearly intended to. First of all, that part of Genesis is a polemic about the Ugaritic beliefs. It's a response to Mesopotamian beliefs, because again, Christianity is a Mesopotamian religion. Like it comes out of the same pantheon as the Babylonians, the Assyrians, and people will say, "Oh, well, the Christians just stole stories from them." It's like, no. That's kind of like saying that the Puritans and the Baptists and the Orthodox and the Catholics all stole stories from each other. It's like, no, they're all telling the same story from different perspectives.
Yeah, it's multiple interpretations of the same event.
Yes. So the Abrahamic religions are a specific group of the Mesopotamian religious group, the Semitic religious group, that believes that our God Yahweh is the chief deity, the creator being, and that that ties in with the beliefs in Baal and El and these other gods from the Mesopotamian pantheon. That's why you see so much similarity. It's also why, if you're the Canaanites in the 8th century, you're going to say, well, that Israelite god is just a minor storm deity. Like, he doesn't actually matter. Like, that doesn't prove that that's what he originally was. That's late.
Yeah.
This is attributed back to the 2000s BC that you have people, according to the Bible, worshiping Yahweh alone. But also there's one thing that I got into as I was reading Michael Heiser was that
goat Michael Heiser.
Oh God, yes. I don't think anybody should become a Christian apologist. I don't think anybody should really go in public and talk about Christianity until they've read The Unseen Realm. I'm currently working my way through it for the second time, and this includes me. I probably shouldn't have done the Weird Bible podcast as early as I did, but at the same time, I think that the way we did it was...
You're fine, yeah.
Not we weren't being preachy about it. It wasn't an apologetics show.
It was more of a Bible study show.
Yes, it was a Bible study.
Well, and if people are looking to a layman on YouTube for the answers to all their questions about Scripture, that's kind of on them to be like, no, I should really go to
and that's why I would always say, I don't know, go watch this guy. He'll be able to explain this better than us. We're here to talk about why Samson's a fun story.
Yes,
that was our job. So, but the idea was that the Hebrew perspective, the Abrahamic perspective, was that Yahweh is the chief deity, in the same way that you had some who thought that Baal was, some who thought that El was, and Yahweh as the chief deity has a divine council of other gods, lowercase g gods. There's even a part in the Bible after the Tower of Babel incident where God's like, all right, well, this is not going as planned. We gave them too much free will. Now they're trying to be like us. I'm going to scatter them around. They're going to get different languages, and each of you guys gets a country to the B'nai Elohim, the sons of God. And that's why Jesus Christ being referred to as the monogenes, is important. That is what gets translated only begotten. There is now a push for that to be retranslated as one and only or unique, because it was originally thought that was one word. It now looks like it might be 2 words.
Interesting.
In Greek, which again, this is all getting really complicated. This is why I don't think most people should talk about the Bible.
Is this also
this is
why
what drove me towards Catholicism? Is I was like, wow, there's a lot of context you need to understand before you try to interpret this.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember the day where you were like, you know what? I'm really starting to understand the benefits of apostolic succession.
Yeah.
Which is not something you usually hear somebody say.
No.
Especially not at the age of 26.
Yeah, definitely.
So
Not unless you're in a monastery currently.
yeah, which there are a lot of 26-year-olds in monasteries. It's crazy. I'm in a Discord with a couple of monks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're having the time of their lives. They're enjoying it.
Good for them.
Yeah, it's a fulfilling lifestyle if it's what you want.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not interested in marriage and kids, it's a great way to not have to go through the grind of life and,
Yeah, it's got to be a great way to remove stress.
Yeah, like I talked to so many. I knew so many people that were like going into either like the priesthood in Roman Catholicism or into like a religious life that way, and it was like, yeah, I'm gonna get paid to like pray a lot and read a lot of great books
and make beer.
Yeah, it's like,
do they still make beer?
Oh yeah, they still make beer.
Do they sell it?
At the monasteries. There's one in Germany that my class would go to.
trip.
My German class in high school, they would do a Germany trip every year. I never went. I'm scared of flying. But they would go to a monastery, I think in Bavaria, where the monks brewed beer that was 18% ABV.
Oh, so they know what they're up to.
Yeah.
Is there a monastery near us anywhere?
There's a few.
Yeah?
Yeah, they're all small. Like they're very small and unassuming here.
What I was going to say, though, is like it'd be cool to kind of just, even without the cameras or anything, just go visit, meet them.
I can set that up.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
do it.
I'm sure we could talk to Father Ben. We could talk to a Catholic priest.
Because like it'd be
There's
really
an
cool
Orthodox one somewhere.
if they're cool with it. Like after like we get to meet them and all that stuff. It's like it'd be really cool if they were interested.
Great
Like,
weird Bible content.
well, that's the thing is if we could bring some cameras and have the conversations with them at different monasteries and just kind of learn a little bit more about that life, what's going on.
do we have monks in Anglo-Catholicism?
I'm sure we do.
I didn't know that Anglicans did that.
We gotta have a monastery.
I could talk to Father's Locke and see if we could go because I know he was involved with the retreat in Malvern, the Catholic retreat in Malvern. And I know he's been all over the place. He's currently in an inner city in Philly church right now, but he loves the stuff, especially Weird Bible that we were doing. So I know he was interested in coming on at some point. But yeah, he could probably also get us into the Roman Catholic locations.
I'm trying to find an example. Holy Cross Monastery, an Anglican Benedictine community.
Anglican Benedictine is not a phrase I ever thought I would hear.
But it is Anglican Catholic. I don't know if it's Anglican Catholic in the sense we are.
Well, that's the thing. Is like I know in England they have monks, but I more mean like Anglo-Catholic specifically. Are there?
There's like 80,000 of us total. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't have our own specific monks.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
Like I mean, if you're a monk, you're gonna be a pretty traditional person anyway in terms of how you view theology.
You're not gonna be like an Anglo-evangelical.
Yeah,
like,
you're not
like that's not.
You're not one of the guys who's like the 39 articles must be respected. It's just not what you're gonna be doing.
So wait, so just going back to tradition again.
Yeah.
So we covered a bit of St. Nicholas. We covered a bit of the present giving. Where do we get from the New York 1800s version of Santa Claus to with some level of red suit to red suit with bells, beard, hat like this, flying reindeer, sleigh? Like how does that evolve out of what came from the Dutch?
That seems to be a little bit of that Northern European influence in terms of just like winter. Mm-hmm. I mean, again, we're talking about the 1800s here. Nobody's pagan.
Yeah.
There's a lot of neo-pagans who will claim that paganism survived.
Yeah, there's gonna be an actually in the comments about that, I'm sure. But
there are some revivalist groups now that are honest about it. It's like we're trying to revive a lost tradition that we have preserved some aspects of it through books.
And then there's others that are co-opting it.
Yes, and there's people that are like, oh no, there was a secret order of druids and witches that were hiding under everybody's nose for the last 2,000 years, and now you all have to sleep with me.
And you're like, first of all, do you even know what a druid is?
Yeah. Which, guys, anytime a religion tells you that, anytime the prophet of a religion tells you that he gets to have multiple wives, that's probably a good indicator that you're not following a religion.
Yeah.
yeah,
A good indicator that you should turn around and leave.
yeah,
Yeah, especially if he says, I get to have multiple wives and you don't.
yeah.
That's another good indicator. Or if he says, I get to have 4 wives as anywhere from the ages of 50 to 9.
Which you already know he must be insane if he wants more than one wife, because why in God's name would anybody want to do
A lot of
that?
effort, man.
Yes.
Like, that's a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Amanda, I could not imagine having to...
I have to keep
Pay
more than
attention to
one
2
woman
Amandas.
happy?
Yeah.
That's not, I would die.
Yeah. I love Amanda, but there is no way I'm splitting time.
No,
Yeah.
not a shot. And that's the thing.
I see stories about
I
men
love
with
cat.
second
That's not
families,
working.
and I'm
Yeah.
like, what are you, dude, why?
Why would you put that on yourself?
Yeah, it was a thing that, like, in the 20th century, that was like a not uncommon thing to be like, I've got one family in this state and another one in this state. It's like, First of all, the fact that you like the purchasing power of your salary, like, and also like this
Inflation has made it impossible to have multiple families
Yes, it
anymore.
has.
the energy it must just suck out of you to be like maintaining that is
Yeah, it's like,
insane.
why would you choose that instead of just investing in Apple stock? Like,
I would be calling kids the wrong name. I'd have to have like equal. It would have to be like, I have two families. Both the wives are named the same thing. My eldest son is Jeffrey. My daughter is Natalie.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't screw it up. I would have
the
a
dogs are both
spreadsheet.
Archie? Yeah.
I'd
I'd
need
have to have two Archies.
I'd need an executive assistant to tell me, where am I supposed to be going? Who's whose? What did? No, it's just not
Also, in
happening.
the age of social media, no, absolutely
shot.
not. Yeah, there's no way. Just couldn't do that. But yeah, so some of
Sure
the
people are doing it.
So a lot of it comes from the winter traditions and just like winter clothing. And I mean, like sleigh bells were a thing. They weren't on reindeer, they were on horses. Like, and Santa originally rode a horse. He gets the reindeer in the mid 19th century.
Reindeer really does just feel like a logical, like, okay, well, we're moving him from like Scandinavia to the North Pole.
Yeah.
He's not going to be running on horses.
Well, exactly. That's the thing is because you got to remember that originally Santa Claus is like a regional thing. So part of the reason that the story of Santa even made sense is, Santa could reasonably visit every American in one night in 1820.
Yeah.
Reasonably.
Every Bavarian could all be hit in one night. Like,
Yeah.
like
The Netherlands is not a large place. Like, and again, they had different traditions about it. The idea of Santa living at the North Pole riding a sleigh pulled by reindeer is an American thing. That comes up in the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
That is, the poem "The Night Before Christmas" is kind of popularizes that view. You don't have it before that. That is a very
Did you say The Nightmare Before Christmas?
no, The Night Before Christmas.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to make sure.
The poem "The Night Before Christmas."
Yeah.
That is kind of the popularity of that poem is what created the modern Santa. Obviously, there was a tradition where Santa had a sleigh pulled by reindeer and he lived at the North Pole and he came down your chimney. Like clearly that tradition existed if the poem was written.
Yep.
The popularity of the poem is what created the modern Santa Claus. So that's where we get modern Santa is a fusion of an English character and a Dutch character. The Dutch character being Saint Nicholas and the English character being the general Christmas spirit.
Yeah. And Father Christmas. Yeah.
Yes, well, Father Christmas was the embodiment of the Christmas spirit.
Yeah.
If we can find a third thing to shoehorn in here, we can make a trinity. We can make a religion out of that.
the Ghost of Christmas Present.
The Ghost of Christmas. There's three ghosts of Christmas. We have a trinity.
and the Ghost of Christmas Present is frequently depicted in a very Santa-like manner.
Right, yeah.
Large robe. It's usually green.
Well, think
but
about where
with beard.
where does the Ghost of Christmas Present come from?
Dickens.
And Dickens is what ethnicity?
Well, he was English.
Mm-hmm.
Where they had
Father Christmas.
Father
Christmas.
Christmas,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Ghost of Christmas Present is Father Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing is like the physical description of Ghost Christmas Present is very much just the Father Christmas cartoon
And
character.
what's with the gargoyle demons in his robe then?
It was the 1830s.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was Dickens. Yeah,
It was Dickens.
he was he was an angsty fellow.
Yeah, but that's why up until the mid 20th century, Santa Claus doesn't match anywhere. It's also why here in America, you look at over in Europe and they've got Schwarzpeter, Black Pete, who is Santa. That's Sinterklaas's helper because you couldn't have Santa punishing people. You had to have some other guy doing that.
Right.
And so the Germans the Austrians were like, we've got Krampus, and the Germans had Belschnickel,
Belschnickel.
and then the Dutch were like, what if it was a black guy? They still do that, and it's not an actual black guy.
Yeah, they just wear
it's a white
blackface
guy
in
in
their
blackface
Christmas celebrations.
and they
Yeah.
still do this. I want to be clear: the Dutch were part of the slave trade. They just apparently don't feel bad about it.
Yeah, didn't the Dutch East India Company?
Oh, they were
Yeah.
they were potentially worse than the British one.
yeah. They were like the traders.
The VOC was bad.
They were the first people that brought slaves to America. Was Dutch. Yeah.
Yeah, so America, you got all this stuff going on over the East, but then America and England, we have a tradition by the early 1800s, especially in the North, which is where Santa Claus kind of coalesces into Santa Claus, of abolitionism. Mm-hmm. In the North, you're not, it would have been very politically bad to have Santa have a slave.
Yeah.
That was not going to fly with Northerners.
But
Southerners
elves.
might have been like, now this right here I like. Yeah, the elves are okay because they're white.
Yeah.
There's no racism involved.
there's no
there.
racial tension there.
They're
happy.
They're just a permanent
They're
undercast.
happy. They're making their toys. They're singing their songs.
So
It's actually what's best for them in the long
It's
run.
best for them in the long run.
So after-
what would the elves do without Santa?
after Firebird, Becky and Brian came over, and Becky wanted to put on a movie that she hadn't seen since she was like 4, and it was called Santa Baby, and I think it was Jenna McCartney or something like that.
I feel like is this the one where I feel like I remember this maybe.
Yeah, like Santa has a heart attack and like is recovering, and Santa's daughter, who is like a big wig on like Wall Street,
Yeah.
comes home and has to like take over and like revamp it.
Yeah.
It was like an ABC Family movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they depict the elves
Oh no.
as so mentally slow that you begin, within the first 20 minutes, you begin to think, is elf a slur in this movie? Because they routinely,
Oh no.
Santa, Mrs. Claus, and the daughter, and like everyone who's human in the town next, like nearby, are just like, that's the elves. They could barely breathe on their own. And like you see them, and it's like, yeah, no, they have an IQ of like 80
I mean, if
at
you
most.
if you think about the early 2000s and the political climate around autism,
Yeah.
it kind of makes sense.
But it's like bad.
oh, I'm sure. Yeah, things don't always. Elf is one of the few ones that has aged well.
Yeah.
Movie Elf, like,
Yeah.
which by the way, like, still all-time classic Christmas movie, and I love the elves in that are very bureaucratic.
I like the Rise of the Guardians take where the elves are just like ornamental and are just like his pet obstacles, and the Yetis are like
Yeah.
the intelligent
Yep.
actual craftsmen.
Oh yeah. Speaking of Christmas movies, we will be watching some this evening.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm going to be doing is I was hoping that the other one would get delivered tonight, but I'm stopping by my parents later to grab my old VHS TV with and so at the very least we will have Year Without a Santa Claus
Nice.
on VHS on like a little VHS tube TV as it was intended to be watched.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it was shot in that aspect ratio.
I'm kind of disappointed that one has not stayed as like popular as Santa Claus Coming to Town or like some of the other ones. Like
The Jack Frost movie is underrated. The Rankin Bass Jack Frost.
Yeah.
So
like-
we watched a YouTube video early in December. Did you know Rankin and Bass made dozens of films like that? And there is a Rankin and Bass Santa cinematic universe.
No.
Yes.
yeah.
What?
There is we can watch this video later. There is I can't remember the channel. It's phenomenal though. This guy goes through, there's like,
It's the greatest crossover event in history.
there are, well, so we found out in October, there's a Rankin and Bass Halloween movie.
What?
It is wild.
I believe it.
It is like, it is weird. Like really weird.
I knew about the interconnectivity of the Christmas movies. I did not know there was a Halloween.
So there's a Halloween movie. There's like one for every season and every holiday somehow. But there are Christmas movies that are not talked about anymore.
Okay, I have
there is a
two
sequel to Rudolph.
Yeah, there's that. Okay, there's two images in my head that are like burned in, and I don't know which Rankin and Bass they go with. You with this video might be able to help me. There's one in which, and I always thought it was Year Without a Santa Claus, but it's not. There's one in which there's this like council of like holiday beings, and so like Father Time is there. It's like the live action one from the Santa Claus 3, but
Other
it's
thing
animated.
about the Snorri refers to the Ice Theater and the Vanir as Yule beings.
Oh, interesting. That sounds familiar. I can't remember which one it is, but I know there was a sequel to Rudolph where Rudolph and Frosty team up, and Frosty is in the 3D version like Rudolph is. So he goes from cartoon to 3D.
Remember this vaguely.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that. There's
and then the other one is where they have to go between these islands, and there's like this like talking suit of knight armor.
That's, I think, Jack Frost.
That's Jack
Yeah,
Frost.
yeah.
yeah.
Fro-
yeah, because
Knights.
there's a
Yeah.
Jack Frost one. There's also I don't think this is canon because they go off of who plays Santa. Well, because Mickey Rooney plays Santa in 6 of them.
Yeah, it's almost always
And I can't remember the other ones. There's Year Without a Santa Claus. There's Santa Claus is Coming to Town.
The one with the heat miser and the
That's
frost.
Year Without
Yeah,
a
that's
Santa
Year Without a
Claus.
Santa Claus.
Yeah.
So there's Mickey Rooney and one other guy that is considered canon, and then there's Rudolph, who's in the Rudolph movie. Santa's played by a different person, but he voices it one other time. And then it's just there's this whole like thing where there's a Jack Frost movie and then there's a movie with Jack Frost, but it's not his movie.
Yeah.
And
They made the characters.
Yeah,
They had the characters.
Yeah, you might as well reuse the
assets
or whatever.
Yeah. Trying to think if there's anything we missed about Christmas. Oh, the greenery. Also, not pagan. There is a account from Pliny mentioning how the Celts used to cut mistletoe off trees.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Mistletoe, it's one of those things, it's like it doesn't directly correlate, but people think it does. Yeah. It's like mistletoe was just a thing that was all over the place. So
one of the funny things.
Rudolph's Shiny New Year.
Oh, yeah, that's
the one
that's what I'm talking of. Yeah, Rudolph's Shiny New Year.
I still have never seen it.
We have to watch it. I that was one of those like movies that I like saw on TV randomly, and I've never been able to like find it again.
There's also Nestor, which is
sort of this one.
It's the long-eared Christmas donkey.
Wait, no, I do know what this is. Holy crap.
A Christmas animated television special produced by Rankin Bass.
Remember the donkey?
Yeah. Frosty's Winter Wonderland was the sequel to Frosty the Snowman. And then it was Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July. That's the one where Frosty and Rudolph team up in 3D. And they go down to experience the 4th of July. Which... yeah.
The second Frosty I've seen, just because I have, like, growing up, we had the DVD that was just the 2-pack of both of them. Like, one of the flip side DVDs that they had for a long time.
Also, yeah, the Halloween one is called Mad Monster Party with a question mark. And the whole idea, we watched this Halloween. The whole idea is that Dr. Frankenstein is inviting a bunch of the monsters and his nephew to the house.
Yeah.
His like secret island castle to say he is retiring and he is going to give his special world domination like chemical to somebody who is going to inherit his job. And he is planning on giving it to his nephew, but his assistant Francesca is like upset that she's not going to get it. Then we find out later that she's actually an android. And then all of the monsters are trying to like get his secret formula, which is basically just like a nuclear bomb in a bottle. And is it the Abominable?
How many drugs did these guys do?
There is a character who's like the kind of like hunchback character that is obsessed with Francesca, and he literally speaks like, "My lovely Francesca, I need to make her love me. I am not lovable, but I need to be loved by Francesca."
I hate it.
And it's
Biopics are overdone, but I absolutely would watch one that's Rankin and Bass just coked out of their minds coming up with this.
So here's the thing. This movie came out a year before Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep came out. And the ending of the movie is Francesca, the android, in a rowboat with the nephew, who has been human up until this point. But the very last line he says, "It's okay, nobody's perfect, nobody's perfect, nobody's perfect."
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm watching it and I'm like, did the author of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep get the idea from this weird Rankin Bass Halloween movie?
That is something Philip K. Dick
was like, I gotta make a book out of this.
Because the
absolutely
ending
would have done that though.
The ending is the ending of that book.
Yeah.
And it came out before the book.
He totally would have done that though. He totally would have watched that and been
my
like, I'm
theory
doing
is
this.
that was the case, and I want to. That was what I was going to make a silver retention video about next Halloween.
That would be great.
Is, did Philip K. Dick get inspired by Rankin and Bass?
The guy who took the premise, what if the Nazis won World War II and made it into the multiverse, would absolutely have watched that movie and gone, I'm going to write a story out of this.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Yeah. So I did want to, since we're getting to the end here, I did want to just bring this up because I think this is the funniest part of the whole Christmas is pagan thing. I would say a solid 99% of that might derive from one article.
From when?
1938.
Oh, wow, that long ago. Okay.
Because it's Christmas and the Roman Saturnalia. It's a 1938 article in the Classical Outlook written by Jenny Churko.
Okay.
Now, here's the interesting thing about Jenny Churko. If you read through the rest of that issue of the Classical Outlook, it's clearly not a true journal. It's not a true academic journal. It is probably one of those journals that you pay to get published in, at least at the time, because it's not publishing so-and-so PhD, Iowa University. It's, somebody who's a high school teacher in Mississippi. Jenny Churko isn't even listed as having credentials. It just says Newark, New Jersey.
Incredible.
That's the whole thing.
Incredible.
Yeah. And the gist of the article is that all the modern Christmas traditions derive from Saturnalia. Yule's thrown in there a little bit. But she supports that by referencing a Roman work by the poet Catullus, which she calls epiphalamium. Epiphalamium. Yeah. And she says that this is where the origin of Christmas trees came from. She says that in this poem by Catullus, they decorate trees, they have pine trees, they bring them inside and all of that. The problem, and she also claims that all of the early Christian writers basically said that, Saturnalia had evergreen decorations. That is not the name of the poem. That is the style. That is the kind of poem. The poem itself is called The Marriage of Peleus and Thetis. And, she says that in the poem, and it took me a while to find this poem because she didn't give the right name for it. She says that in the poem, they decorate pine trees, in their home. But I read the poem. First of all, it doesn't mention Saturnalia.
No, it wouldn't, because that myth predates the existence of Saturnalia.
Yep. So it doesn't mention Saturnalia. It also doesn't say anything about decorating pine trees and putting them in the home. It just says they decorated trees outdoors for the wedding.
And when was this poem written again?
Oh my God, it's so early.
I would have to say, because Peleus and Thetis is what prompts, it's like the hook for the Iliad. I'm assuming it's not that old.
It is a dramatic event about the Trojan War. I'm trying to figure out when the if it's Catullus' poem.
Oh, so that this could be the original, like the original source of that, like, their wedding and then Eris threw the golden apple and whatever.
Yeah, I'm trying to, when did he live? He's 84 to 54 BC.
Okay, so this is like one of the early sources of that myth. This isn't a later, Shakespeare doing Troilus and Cressida or whatever.
Yes, exactly.
So they don't have pine trees in Greece, do they?
I mean, northern alpine parts? Yeah,
probably, but not the, parts that were generating these writings.
Yeah, also, again, 1,600 years between the first Christmas tree and this poem.
Right.
And Saturnalia is outlawed in the 4th century. Now, it still happens occasionally, but by, the 5th or 6th century, Saturnalia is not happening anymore.
Yeah.
And we don't have a through line of traditions that connect Saturnalia to Christmas. We don't have gift giving recorded in the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
I think the first time you see anything about it is kind of like the 10th century, but it's not the same kind of gift giving.
Right.
It's
not,
a New Year's thing. It's not a Christmas thing. So we don't have any through line for that. We don't have any through line for trees, any through line for greenery. But this article gets worse because she appeals to the writings of early Christians, like, for example, Tertullian, who did which, I mean, there's some things to say about that considering he was declared a heretic. But
doesn't help.
As a historical source, he did say on idolatry that the Romans decorate during Saturnalia, but it was with flowers. Flowers and fruits, not, lights, tinsel, any of the things commonly associated with Christmas. Chrysostom, John Chrysostom, she references him as well. Major Christian writer. I actually read some of his stuff the other day while arguing with a Muslim. I was right.
No.
Yeah.
I was arguing with another Christian the other day. Just happened to in TikTok DMs because they messaged me after I made a comment on something.
God.
And they were like, yeah, Jewish people actually, they don't worship the God of Abraham. They worship the devil. And I was like, I'm sorry, what?
And you need to take several steps back.
And it was a 30-minute argument, and he brought up passages from the Bible, and I pulled up Bible Gateway, and I'm like, brother, the passage you brought up 2 lines before clearly says Christ is literally saying, he's like, you worship the God of Abraham. You're just rejecting him right now through your pursuit of violence.
Also, I feel like Jesus would not have been a practicing Jew if Judaism was worshiping Satan.
Well, the whole thing that Jesus does in in the Gospels is he's like, you guys are doing Judaism wrong.
Right. It's not this whole thing is intrinsically not good.
Yeah.
It's like you are just misinterpreting the Torah, essentially. You're just misinterpreting what was handed down to you.
And then 30 minutes into the argument, he was like, well, the IDF is horrible and my neighbor sucks because he was a part of it and like he did something bad to my family. And I was like, okay, so this isn't theological.
Yeah.
Like, I'll leave this.
This isn't about the Bible. This is about something.
But yeah, so she references John Chrysostom. She doesn't say which of his works, but she doesn't cite any of the works.
Of course not.
There is not a single proper citation.
Why would she cite
in this entire article? There's no footnotes. There's no inline citations. There's no endnotes. There's nothing. It's just opinion.
Yep.
It is a pure opinion piece. Chrysostom doesn't mention greenery at all. Nowhere. And Libanius, I couldn't figure out what she was talking about. Or Libanius, I can't remember which one it was.
Don't know who that is.
Exactly. But yeah, it's... I tried to get through it, and I was like, oh, she also mentions Yule being celebrated in Tuscany.
What?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think she might have been thinking about Dia Natalis.
I guess.
It's not Yule. So yeah, it seems like I was able to find most of the modern arguments. I'm wondering if they all come from that article.
That would not
It's
surprise
possible.
me. Yeah.
Because it looks like a journal article.
Mm-hmm.
But I could find no credentials for this individual. There's no citations. This article, this would have gotten a failing grade as a college paper.
The thing too, but
Like, I would have had notes that are just like source, citation, what?
red question mark, red question mark, red question mark. Now, the thing that does strike me though, like why that seems plausible, is that she's name dropping enough, like sources that I could totally see somebody that doesn't really know how to do history pulls that up and it just confirms their bias that all this stuff is pagan, and they're like, oh well, she's referencing early church writers, so obviously this is somebody who's an expert. Like,
yeah, and of course, if she doesn't name any of them, then in 1938, it's a lot harder to go and disprove that.
Right.
Now, I can look up all of those texts from my computer and know that she's wrong within 5 minutes. 1938, you got to go to a library. You got to read through all of the books, all of them,
No
because you
Control
can't.
F in 1938.
You can't just click find, find in page. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like, yeah, there are a few little folk traditions that made their way into Christmas, but when you look at the core aspects of the holiday, particularly the date, it's not pagan. If you look at the gift giving, it's not pagan. If you look at there's no resurrection involved in this one, but the idea of a figure being born at the same time as the sun, as far as we can tell, it's not Sol Invictus, because Christmas predates that. There is some argument that it could come from Mithraism, but it's a completely different style of dating, especially because one is solar and one is lunar. The Jews were using a lunar calendar. That's the reason they went with Passover. They calculated by the moon. The Jewish months were on a lunar calendar. The Romans were on a solar calendar, as were the Persians, who had their story of Mithras, but that was eventually a deified individual who represented the sun. Yeah. And then, of course, it's like, oh, well, God, the son of God, the son. It's like different languages, guys. Come on. Different languages.
Yep.
But
like the whole men-women thing, that like they think WO is a modifier on men, even though they're completely etymologically unrelated.
Yeah, which is wild. Woman and man are not etymologically the same word.
Interesting.
There was this thing that went really viral where it was like,
I think whiff was the word.
Yeah, and it was like, oh, like this is one of the ways language is systemically misogynistic, because like the word for woman is just a modified man or whatever, and it's like these words don't come from the same place. Like they're not. They're too different. Like they sound the same in English because they sound the same in English.
Yeah,
like
fair.
And like I said, at the end of the day, when it comes to the Christmas is pagan thing, it's the same as the Easter is pagan thing. There's a lot of things that on the surface look like they're similar. It's when you start to try and dig down and find the origin of those things in the documented record that you start to see that you can't. There is no connection between Yule festivities and Christmas, at least in its origin. You might have certain things that would have been present.
Yep.
Yeah, you might have had, somebody hanging an evergreen bough on their door. That's not a wreath. And the fact of the matter is people think that our traditions go back a lot longer than they do. That's the other thing, is most of Christmas as we know it is from the 1800s. All the stuff that isn't is from like the 1400s and on, Wassailing, which became Christmas caroling, that was a 15th century, 14th century kind of tradition that developed because it was basically young men going door to door, singing songs and being rowdy and, asking for alcohol and food and just kind of a festivity thing. And then you would have people in taverns and mead halls who would be drinking together and singing songs. And it was just part of the festivity of the season. That's what became Christmas caroling. Like, Christmas caroling doesn't have a pagan origin. And I think the other thing is that people tend to extend paganism's lifetime in Europe long beyond when it actually survived. Paganism is rooted out of most of Europe by the 11th century. It's rooted out of the rest of Europe by the 15th.
Yeah.
I mean, and when I mean like by the 15th, I mean that's like completely erased. I think the Nordics convert in the late 10th century. So, and that's basically the last people in Europe to do it. You still have, the far-flung groups who are still doing it a little bit, but when you actually trace back all of the Christmas traditions, they're either too early to be from these pagan traditions, they predate Christianity's contact with these traditions, or they're too late to have been connected, as in there's no way there's no record of this tradition carrying on 600 years and becoming a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
So, and like I said in the video on Friday towards the end, my goal here isn't to invalidate anyone's beliefs. It's, think how it would feel if somebody came to you and said your holiday doesn't actually matter because it's just a stolen version of someone else's.
Yeah.
And think how it would feel if you knew that wasn't true and people just kept saying it, no matter how many times you proved it wrong. And one thing that drives me nuts about it is the number of people who will say it and be like, oh, well, everybody knows Christmas was originally a bunch of pagan holidays that Christians just all co-opted into one. And then you say, that's really not true. It's a misconception. All of these traditions, like some of them might look similar, but yeah, most of them either predate or postdate by too much to be connected. And there's no documentation showing that there was a through line between the two. Also, this tradition was being practiced in this part of the world, and this tradition was being practiced somewhere else, and they didn't know about each other. Like humans just develop things independently, and they'll sit there and they'll be like, no, all the scholars say so. And I'm like, no, we don't. No, we don't. Because I looked into it. When we did the video on, it was the Solder Children for, I think we did Santa Claus, and the J.K. Rowling one I did Yule back in 2023, at the end of 2023, I think. I didn't go into that thinking I'm going to disprove that Christmas is pagan. I went into that under the impression that, yeah, there are probably going to be certain aspects of this that we adopted from paganism, and I'm going to demonstrate how it happened. I want to show people, like where the origin of each thing was. And as I got further and further into it, and you'll notice if you watch the Halloween one, I don't do that. I don't say none of this is pagan. I don't say all of this comes from Christianity. I say, yeah, this bit seems to come from potentially Celtic pagan folklore, not necessarily Samhain, but it does seem to come from their traditions. This part is purely Christian. This part doesn't have connections to either paganism or Christianity. It's just something people did in that part of the world. So, and that's what I want people to understand is like, I'm not coming into this saying I'm a Christian historian. I'm a historian. I'm doing what I was trained to do. I may not work in an academic context, but I do know the methodology still.
Yep.
I do practice it. I am doing this not because I couldn't go get my master's and my PhD and work as an academic historian. I'm doing this because I talked to my professor about it in grad school, and I said, hey, I'm making this much money. Should I stay in grad school? And he said no.
Yeah.
He said there are no jobs. He said, if you are making more than me right now, I was, and this is years ago. This is 2020, the end of 2022, beginning of 2023. He said, if you are making a good living now and you're at a crossroads where you can either focus on work or focus on school. Focus on work. You can always come back to school, but right now what's going to happen is you're going to graduate, you're going to get your PhD, you're going to be in a ton of debt, and then you're going to find some middle of nowhere school that's actually hiring adjunct professors, and you're going to work at that one, and then you're going to drive an hour and a half to another one to teach a different class. You're going to work for 2 different schools, potentially 3 at once, and you're going to make $1,200 a course. I was like, okay, so I should focus on work. And he went, yeah, you should focus on work.
I mean, that's like just there's no decision to be made there.
So what I do in my daily life now is I do the same things I was taught to do as a history student, and I just apply them outside of academia. So when I say that I'm doing this as a student of history, not as a Christian, I mean that. I mean that I'm looking at these traditions and I'm saying, what can I find? What can I dig up? I write a paper every week, and sometimes I'm doing true crime history, and I'm finding all of the records of something, and I'm comparing, contrasting them, and I'm figuring out where everything happened. I'm saying, all right, well, this one account contradicts these 3, but this one's closer to the source. Can I find anything that's a middle of the road that maybe tells me which is which? And that's what I did for this. Is I said, all right, what documentation do we have? Can I find a through line between these 2 things?
Yep.
And in some cases, yes, mistletoe. There's a through line. There was a Druidic and a Nordic pagan reverence for mistletoe. I mean, mistletoe is, I think, what kills Balder.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So and then the Druids would cut it down from a special kind of oak tree and use it in rituals. We have these are documented a long time ago. But that doesn't mean that Christmas trees are pagan. That doesn't mean that hanging a wreath on your door is pagan. And that needs to be okay. People need to be okay with that. Right. I don't care. I'm not offended if somebody who is a Norse pagan, for example, Kellen is probably watching this. I'm not offended if Kellen hangs a Christmas wreath. I'm not offended if he takes something from our tradition and goes, that looks nice. Because atheists do that every year.
Yeah.
Atheists have been celebrating Christmas in its aesthetic sense my entire life. I am not offended by it. I am not offended by people who are from Messianic Jewish families or, split families, one's Jewish, one's Christian, who have a menorah wrapped with greenery. That doesn't offend me. Celebrate the holiday how you want. Just don't tell me that my beliefs come from a place they don't come from.
Well, and your beliefs validation don't necessarily need to come from, you don't need to create a history that isn't there. Like I got really into it once with a Baptist who was like trying to argue like, oh, well, all of these heretical groups that had been ostracized by the Roman Catholics throughout all of church history have been Baptist. It's like you don't need that to be Baptist. You can just be Baptist. It doesn't need to be like, it is perfectly legitimate to believe whatever you want within reason. Just because you do. You don't need to like get into it with people over just like very easily disprovable
and that's what it is at the end of the day with the Christmas is pagan, Easter is pagan thing. Is it's not about like, for the most of the time when I see it, there are some people who are like, no, this tradition I genuinely believe and feel that this comes from this, and I'm not angry that Christians have it. I just want it to be respected that this comes from my culture. And I understand that. I get that. That's the same reason I'm having this conversation right now, is because I don't care if an atheist or a Jew or a pagan or somebody has a Christmas tree. That's not going to bother me. Just
cultural appropriation.
Just don't tell me that I stole it from you when you adopted it from me. Or when we both came up with it independently. I think a great example of this is the bow and arrow. The bow and arrow shows up all over the world and not from one source. The Native Americans independently invent it. The Africans independently invent it. The Asians independently invent it. The Europeans independently invent it. Everybody comes up with the bow and arrow. Everybody can come up with putting greenery on a mantle. Like, it doesn't have to derive from one place. And at the end of the day, the core aspect of the holiday is what we're celebrating, when we're celebrating it, and why. For Christians, we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ because we believe that he came into the world to save us from sin, to put us on the right path, and, to basically keep us honest. And that, this was him extending a sort of status that had previously been applied only to God's chosen people, who, again, that's a mixed bag of what that term actually means, but extended that grace to all of us. That's a good thing for Christians. We like that. You know, it's, again, you can get into the nitty-gritty of the theology and, well, why do Christians have to be saved in the first place? It's not the conversation we're having. But so for me, that's why I celebrate Christmas, is because that's a momentous, joyful occasion. Same thing with Easter. It's, Easter is a solemn occasion on the one hand, but it's also a joyful occasion because it's the same kind of thing. We're celebrating the birth and the resurrection of our God. And I think that if you take a step back from it and you remove sort of the cultural connotations and the things people have that are the tensions that have developed over the years, and you look at it, there's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that needs to be, like, you don't need to say we co-opted that from you. I don't think we did. I know that as far as we can trace it back, those aspects of Christmas are original to Christianity, or at the very least can be derived from Judaism of the Second Temple period, which makes sense. So again, I don't have a problem when people celebrate Christmas, even if they're not Christian. If you're just making a cultural holiday out of it, if you just appreciate the getting together with family and eating good food and sharing presents and all of that, great, do it. I have no problem with that. I'm glad that you're sharing in the joy of the season, whether you're doing it because you're Christian or not. It's just a matter of, I think, respect. And when I look at a lot of the discourse around Christmas as pagan, it's not about, hey, I feel like my traditions are being disrespected. It's, I'm invalidating your religion. And I think that's the problem I have with it. That's why I feel like it. People are like, well, why are you so upset about it if it's not true? And it's like, well, because you're doing this for malicious reasons. And even if you're not, that's how we're interpreting it, is that you're doing this for malicious purposes. And that's not a good idea. You don't want to, and this is it's the same thing that I think we've all been noticing over the last 15 years, is when you constantly tell people they are something, eventually they're going to become it.
Yeah.
So if you constantly tell people that Christianity is nothing but a death cult that wants to destroy every other belief system on the planet, eventually you're going to get Christians who feel that way. And it's unfortunately up to the rest of us to stop that. But if you keep telling people that they're something they're not, they'll eventually become it, or at least some of them will. And I think that it's in everybody's best interest to take a step back, ask ourselves, why are we insisting Christmas is pagan? And then maybe consider not doing it anymore.
In the spirit of Christmas, treat other Christmas celebrators nicely.
Yeah, like, and that's the thing too, is like, if I say Merry Christmas to somebody, it's not me like being a Christian nationalist. It's this is the Christmas season to me. If I say Merry Christmas to somebody and they reply Happy Hanukkah, I'm going to be like, oh, cool.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Maccabees, great book.
Yeah. no kidding.
It was pretty baller of you guys fighting off Antiochus like that. Like, that was chill. Like, if I say Merry Christmas, somebody replies Happy Yule, I'm going to be like, oh, cool. Yeah. Cool. We're both celebrating our holidays. When I say Merry Christmas, I'm legitimately wishing you a good holiday season from my perspective.
Yeah.
If you reply in kind, great. Or if you just say Happy Holidays, I'm like, okay, cool.
Well, it's also, to me, I always like the opportunity because you get to find out what that person celebrates.
Yeah. Right.
Even in just a brief exchange.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, okay, so they are, they're celebrating Hanukkah, so they're Jewish. That's cool. That's something I did not know about that person that now I do.
Yeah, I've had before people be like strangers or whoever, be like, Happy Holidays. Well, yeah, Merry Christmas. Like agreeing, yeah, Merry Christmas. And then they do like this audible, like, ugh.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, come on. Like,
also, gotta be honest, as a Christian, Hanukkah is kind of ours too. Like that's one we share with the Jews.
Yeah.
Like if without the if the Maccabean revolt doesn't succeed, Judaism of the Second Temple period is wiped out, which means no Jesus.
That's one thing I've never understood, is because it's not like a lot of the feasts that were made obsolete by the New Covenant. It's something that is just a celebration of, like, it's not one of the original, like, from Leviticus, here's all the things you have to celebrate. It's like, this is just a thing that honors a very important event to the continuation of God's chosen
2nd century
people.
BC.
Yeah. So it's like, why would we not? I'm not saying we should all go start celebrating Hanukkah as Christians. I'm saying, why would we not care about this in a way that we don't need to care about Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur or something like that.
Also, if I have a Jewish friend, I'll probably say Happy Hanukkah to them because if it's the 25th of December, Merry Christmas. But if I know that person's Jewish and it's during Hanukkah, I'm gonna say Happy Hanukkah, and then after that, I might say Merry Christmas. And if they say Happy Holidays, I'm good.
Yeah,
chill. That's fine, man. I think that's the attitude people need to have, not this weird constant fighting about whose holiday is whose.
Yeah, it's just a nice way. If you treat it as a friendly exchange of information about yourself, that's all it needs to be. It can be a positive thing.
You mean not every interaction is an opportunity to assert one's dominance in the culture?
Correct.
Yeah, go to thought.
Now, Kwanzaa. What the hell is going on with Kwanzaa?
I know nothing about it.
Kwanzaa
It was invented
is
in like the 60s in America, and Africans in Africa don't celebrate it.
It's like a created holiday. It's like, a particular people group was like, oh, we don't have a holiday, so we're gonna make one, and then it's like, okay,
Honestly, kind of based.
yeah.
Yeah,
But then there's people that are like, oh, but again, kind of like to this thing that we've been talking about, are like, oh, well, this has always been a thing. It's like, no, you invented it, and that's okay.
It's
You
like
can-
that holiday is less than 100 years old, and you should probably be honest about that one.
Yeah,
Like,
just tell the truth. It's cool that you made up a holiday.
it was a holiday created for African Americans to tie back to their roots in Africa.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
It's just weird when it gets treated like it's 1,000 years old. And I'm not trying to invalidate it. I'm just like, the discourse around it is strange.
Yeah.
And it's mostly the discourse around it from white people who are being performative. Like, white people will be performative about Kwanzaa. I have never had a black person say Happy Kwanzaa to me in my entire life. In fact, I think the ratio of black people I know who are Christians is higher than the ratio of white people I know who are Christians.
Absolutely.
The ratio of people who I have seen say Happy Kwanzaa, much higher amongst white people. It's just a weird little, like, it's a weird thing. I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't understand when white people do that. If a black person says Happy Kwanzaa to me, I'm gonna be like, yeah, sure. All right.
Cool. Yeah.
That's a new one. Haven't heard that before.
I went down a whole rabbit hole last night unintentionally of apparently the Avatar movies and the tribes of that are like loosely based off of an actual like cultural group in Africa.
As in the, like, James Cameron Avatar?
Yes. The African cultural group is called the Nilote, I believe. It's Nilote. And it's interesting because they have a very specific phenotype by comparison to the rest of Africa. They are,
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
they're way taller, they're way leaner, and their facial features are far more European than what you would traditionally see in Africa. But they have like the darkest skin of any cultural group or like, regional group on Earth. So it's really interesting. Like they, and again, those kind of phenotypical designs are brought into Avatar with the really tall, really lean, and then just like those kind of.
What are they called again?
Nilote, I believe.
Nilote?
Yeah, Nilote.
Yeah, there they are.
And that's the thing is like, so I saw a few TikToks where they were kind of comparing, like, it was some of the people of the Nilote group.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, it's kind of wild how, like, James Cameron just basically based this off of the Nilote group and, like, it's not really been noticed or recognized lately. And I was like, how much is that true? And then they were giving one-to-one comparisons of images from the Avatar movies and, like, Nilote individuals in cultural garb, and it's, like, the same outfits.
Hilarious.
And it's like, that's kind of nuts.
James Cameron went, what if we took African culture and the story of Pocahontas?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
The
there's
first time I saw Avatar, I was like, so this is Pocahontas, right?
Yeah. And he was like, but let's make them blue.
Yeah. Lawrence
with
of
tails.
Pandora. Yeah. That's I've noticed things
See,
like
Lawrence of Pandora.
Yeah.
or Dances with Navi. Same. Yeah.
Oh, wait, yeah, because that's what they're called.
Yeah.
Nilote, Navi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Iris.
James Cameron does that. Like, what's the line in Titanic that's I'd rather be his whore than your wife or whatever? Isn't that a line in
I
Titanic?
have never seen Titanic. I'm going to be totally
Really?
honest with you guys.
Isn't that
Which is
isn't that a
weird
line?
because
in
Amanda had a hyperfixation on it when she was a child, and I
I'm
still
surprised she
haven't
hasn't made you watch it yet. It's not.
too.
I haven't watched since I was like a kid. But
There-
I remember
there-
this. This is pretty bad. This is how autistic I was. I was like, because in the VHS, it was in two VHSs. The first part was the love story. The second part was the disaster. I was like, I don't need to see the love story. I want to see the action.
Yeah.
So
I want to
like
see the
it start-
shit.
Yeah, so it was like I started with the second VHS.
Yeah.
Of like once they hit the iceberg, I was like, this is the story. I don't need to see DiCaprio and whatever, the Kate Winslet have like a romance.
Yeah,
Show me the Titanic go down.
Anyway, there's some line to that effect
I
in
don't need
Titanic.
titties. Show me the boat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's some line to that effect in Titanic, and then I like it's verbatim a line in Twin Peaks.
Oh, really?
Like it's just like it's one of the like more famous lines in Titanic, and it's just like, wait, you just copy and pasted it. Like, do you think we would notice?
I
like,
love that Spielberg used David Lynch as John Ford.
that
in
is one of my
Fabelmans.
favorite scenes in
It was
any
so
movie.
good. Have you not seen The Fabelmans? So The Fabelmans is a very heavily but not official autobiography of Steven Spielberg in a movie.
Naturally.
And it tells the story of essentially him growing up starting out in New Jersey and then in Arizona and then eventually sneaking his way onto, I think it was Universal, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
And getting
Do
in
that back then.
You could.
You literally
just
could
do things.
You really could.
He would just walk around the lot. He's probably 19 or whatever.
No, he was
is.
young. He was younger than
Yeah,
that.
he was younger.
Yeah.
He would just walk onto the set and go up to people that looked important and be like, "Hey, can I grab you guys coffee?" And because they're movie
Yeah.
executives, they're like, "I would love for this random kid to bring me coffee."
The
and so he would just do this until they hired him. Like,
the way it started was he took a tour, like one of the official tours, snuck away and hid in a bathroom for 3 hours to make sure the tour was definitely gone. And then was wandering around just aimlessly, found an empty office, and just kind of set himself up in it for the day. He used the pass that he was given the previous day. He came back, it was like a 3-day pass or whatever. And on the 4th day, the pass was no longer valid. But he was like, you know what, let's try it. And instead of showing the pass to the security guard, because it was the same security guard every day, he just said hello, hoping that he would recognize him. And the security guard was just like, oh, hey, Steve, how are you? Assuming that he was there with a reason, and he recognized him at that point. So for an entire summer, he existed in this office, and everyone just assumed he was some Nepo baby that like belonged to one of these studio execs, and he just essentially made himself an intern.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where people figured out by the end of the summer who he was, and the head of Universal, his name was Sid Sheinberg, found out, brought him into his office, and he was like, that was genius. You're so not allowed to do it, but I respect it. Do you want a job? And gave him a job. And Sid Sheinberg was actually the one who made him do Jaws, because he had done a couple TV movies and like television shows before that. And he offered him Jaws. And Spielberg was like, before anything had ever started for that, he was like, I feel like that's going to be like a shit show. I don't want to do that. And Sid was like, hey, Steven, you're going to make Jaws.
Do you want to go to jail, Steven?
Yeah. And so that happened. But in The Fabelmans at the end of the movie, part of him kind of just like sneaking onto the lot is he stumbles into John Ford's room, which, are you familiar with John Ford? So
Stagecoach, lots of like the
he was
original
the
American
Western movie
Westerns.
maker.
Yeah.
He won so many Oscars. Basically, every John Wayne movie was directed by John Ford. He had like a very specific style. He was like the epitome of Golden Age Westerns in Hollywood.
Yes.
But he was like the classic, just like grumpy old man. And David Lynch plays him classically. Steven Spielberg stumbles into his office, and he's got like an eye patch under his glasses.
Yep.
And he was like, what do you know about art, kid? And Spielberg's like, oh, well, it's composition or whatever. He was like, look at that painting. What do you see? And he's like, well, there's like 2 cowboys. They're on horses and they're in the desert. And he's like, no, the horizon. What is it? And he's like, it's at the bottom. He's like, right. Go to that one. What's in the painting? He was like, well, there's like 5 guys with guns. They're in this pit. No. The horizon. Where is it? And he was like, oh, it's up at the top. And he's like, yes, right. Art. If the horizon's at the bottom, it's interesting. If the horizon's at the top, it's interesting. If the horizon's in the middle, it's boring as shit. Now get out. That was it. I was just like a perfect John Ford impression. It was great. And it was just like, it's so funny because I rewatched that scene recently, and everybody in the comments is like, yeah, wow, that was like one of the most like masterclass things about composition of all time, like better than I learned in like film school.
And the perfect last screen appearance of David Lynch.
Yes,
Like
100%.
the exact way. Like in the same way it's very appropriate that the last word in Stanley Kubrick's filmography is fuck.
Yeah.
It's exactly appropriate that David Lynch's last role is him just like
Yeah.
being John Ford.
I rewatched because Kat was willing to last night. I rewatched Empire of Dreams again for the first time in like over a decade last night. First of all, I forgot that they had Walter Cronkite in that, like, talking about how important Star Wars was for the world. But, like, again, I just totally forgot just how much Lucas changed the film world entirely.
Before,
Yeah, can't believe how much he changed the film industry. But at the end of the day, that's probably a good place for us to start wrapping things up.
I agree. Otherwise, we're going to get into a conversation about film, and I am not prepared.
That's okay. I'm surprised. Yeah, at some point we're probably going to start like a general film podcast because that'll be easier.
I was going to bring that up with silver retention. It's like I feel like you have your main videos. It'd be cool to have something more like this, whether that's live, whether that's podcast, whatever. It'd be cool to have this.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably have to do kind of what we did with Lord Lads and have that as its separate channel. But I think that would be valuable at some point, especially considering it's going to be a little bit lower scale of a lift to be able to have a weekly conversation about movies and how they're made and stuff like that.
Well, especially if we start doing the movie nights at the Colonial thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we've been talking to people.
Yeah.
Like a curated series.
Wait, weekly or monthly?
That would be monthly.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
That'd be sick.
Cool.
Yeah, the idea was like get Drew from the Colonial. He's on board. He just wants to talk about like the details of it. And then
I got to talk to Lewis at Rivertown.
Celso would do drinks. So basically, it would be like a progressive kind of evening where you'd start at Rivertown,
have some drinks, some dinner.
Yeah. Like themed menu, basically, like probably like 2 or 3 entrees, a couple of appetizers, based on whatever movie we're doing. Then you go see the movie, and then we'd all come back to the lodge and have like a conversation, and just hang out, themed cocktails, like not a guided conversation,
awesome.
Just like there would be themed cocktails, and it's just a cocktail party afterwards for fun.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, theoretically, we could do a brief official conversation after the film in the Colonial.
We could also have it set up that like people who want to be in the lounge area of the lodge can have a sort of like somewhat focused discussion of the movie, and then people who just want to hang out and drink and do it in the other room. Like,
yeah.
Or there could be a dedicated thing where you watch the movie, then there's like, okay, lights go up. There's this sort of like shorter, more casual, like live edition of whatever the movie podcast is that's more guided or whatever. And then we come back here and it's casual.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I feel like that would be, rather than having, because I feel like
it just depends on what people are going to stay for
Yeah.
on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, that's fair.
If it's a Wednesday night, it's a little bit different.
Wednesday or a Thursday night.
Yeah.
Thursday would be probably a little easier.
Thursday's better, yeah. Lots of stuff.
I'll push for Thursday because I think Wednesday's just too early in the week.
Yeah, agree.
Drew said they're slow on Thursdays.
Well, and a lot of stuff on Bridge Street, other than Bistro, stays open as late on Thursdays as they do on a weekend night anyway. So
so that keeps it easy.
Molly's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, literally.
When I realized there were 2 a.m. on a Thursday, I was shocked. I was like, Bistro is
Club going up.
Yeah.
Kat and I have been making a joke for weeks now because when we were leaving dim sum after a date night, we were walking behind these 2 couples, and they were clearly like early 20s, and it was 2 guys and 2 girls, and the guys were like, well, like, what do we want to do? Do we want to go to Bistro or Molly's? And the girls looked at each other and they were just like, Bistro, like, duh. And we were like, yeah, that tracks for who is going to Bistro at this point of the night and how they view it. It was really entertaining.
Like, maturing is realizing Molly's is the better bar.
Yeah, I am not
very early.
I do not. I am not speaking as a representative of Bistro on Bridge. However, you're absolutely right.
It's the thing. It's
different vibes.
Yeah,
the bars are for different things.
Yeah,
right.
Bistro is definitely fun at a time, but it's also dependent on who you're there with, and how busy it is. Because Bistro is very club vibe, especially upstairs.
Yeah.
Whereas Molly's is the closest thing we have to a dive bar in town now.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of what you're in the mood for. If you want to like casual socialite, maybe dance, go to Bistro.
I was playing a show on stage at Molly's once, and a pipe burst above us and started leaking water on the stage. It was a great time.
Yeah.
I got wet.
Nice.
Yeah.
I feel like Bistro I have to be there with people I know.
Yeah.
Whereas like I'm like the crowd at Bistro is not going to be people that I particularly like vibe with.
Yeah.
If I'm just by myself or whatever, Molly's is going to be more.
Exactly. It's like I can go to Molly's and I'm going to see the people I know.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I went to Molly's last night and I found Ethan.
Yeah. There you go.
He was just there.
Which was funny because I was kind of
for karaoke.
I was about to close out. I was kind of done drinking for the night, and then I'm like on my phone doing whatever, and then all of a sudden somebody is just like, "Hey, what's up?" And I like
I said, you come here often.
My brain has to like catch up, and I'm like, "Oh, Mattis, I'm gonna be here longer."
He was there longer. You got a ride home out of it. So
there we go.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I definitely didn't drink and drive. It's fine.
Good job.
Yeah, no, never. Anyway.
Wait a minute, we're smarter than this.
All right. Merry Christmas, everybody, or Happy Hanukkah, or Kwanzaa, or Yule, or whatever it is you're celebrating. You know, just have fun, have some drinks, eat some food with your family.
Spread some cheer and joy.
Yeah, some cheer and joy. Give somebody a present.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bomb a data center. What? Who said that?
We're about to get real. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, we're about to get real silly.
All right, see you guys.
Whenever you said that, I'm surprised it took you to the end. I thought about setting a stopwatch, see how long you would take to mention Pennhurst on this episode.
Come here, buddy. Come on. Come here.